is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. It's talk radio you control. You can give us a call and get on the air. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. I hope everybody had a new year. Happy to be here doing the first Free Talk Live episode of 2026.
2026, guys. We did it. We got through the new year.
In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
Riley.
And Angelo.
Riley go Bill, actually.
Well.
To be technical.
The big thing, I guess, that we're supposed to talk about, because we're kind of like a current events talk show, is Trump went ahead and nabbed Maduro right out of Venezuela, I guess.
Yeah. Did you see any of the
I don't know anything.
Videos of the bombs that were getting dropped on, what is it, Caracas? Is that their capital?
Caracas is the capital. I've heard that some of the bombing sounded like fireworks, and I listened to some of it, and it did sound kind of like fireworks.
They didn't look like fireworks.
I imagine they didn't.
They didn't look like fireworks. They looked like towers of fire going into the sky. So, yeah, I guess we dropped a bunch of bombs on them and then sent a...
Why would you do that?
Well...
Angelo, I'm disappointed.
Yeah,
I know, Angelo, you're not a man of peace.
I know. Sorry, guys.
I'm
still wrapped up in this idea.
U.S. military.
Yeah, the U.S. military. I'm still wrapped up in this idea that I live here.
No, I know. It's hard. It's hard not to do.
It really is hard to change your language and change the way you say things.
Anyways, the U.S. military dropped a bunch of bombs and then sent in like some Delta squad and nabbed him up, and took him like 2 hours from when they started dropping the bombs to picking him up in his room.
Yeah, so they just created a bunch of chaos to cover for a SEAL team, whatever, and
then just pulled him. Yeah, ran in and grabbed him and ran out.
Just thugs in black in the middle of the night.
yeah, he got black bagged. They just black bagged him.
Yeah, well, that's how they run it. So
at least they didn't murder 1.2 million civilians beforehand.
Yeah, that's probably coming next if you live in Venezuela.
That's what I'm thinking. There's going to be like Splinter. Like, what's the military going to do? Probably it's just going to turn into probably like guerrilla fighting out of the jungle.
Yeah, there will be a power struggle, and there will be like...
There always is a power struggle. I mean, regime changes come slow, power struggles happen.
Always
it's
plenty of funding for that.
Yeah, and don't fear, the U.S. is going to control Venezuela until they can get their new government up and running.
Yeah, they'll do, yeah. If you want to know, just go ahead and look at what the U.S. military went ahead and did to pretty much every other South American country, and you'll see, like, they just fund opposition parties and they train them to do horrible things and give them a poisoned worldview, and then set them about doing the devil's work.
Yeah, well, it looks like the opposition leader is a super big fan of Benjamin Netanyahu, so I'm guessing the Iranian drone operators getting trained in Venezuela is going to stop happening. Do you know that was like an angle to this?
No.
Yeah, so the Iranians had like drone and Iran and Maduro had kind of a deal worked out where they were training drone operators in Venezuela. Probably in exchange for weapons or something. But yeah, so the opposition leader, who's probably going to become the president of Venezuela, is super keen on becoming super allies with Israel right off the bat and moving their embassy to Jerusalem as soon as possible.
Oh, interesting. That makes a lot of sense that a regime change might be happening, because the new regime has got to be allies with Israel. And
who's the opposition leader? Is it still that lady that they gave the Peace Prize to? And it looked totally fake, and she's like, oh, I don't deserve this. They should give it to Trump. And Trump's like, I deserve the Peace Prize. Like, is it that lady still?
Yeah, Maria Corina Machado.
Yeah, that's right.
Interesting.
Machado. Yeah.
So this isn't just about oil. This isn't like,
No.
and I'm not saying Maduro's a good guy, right? He's still
Oh,
a
no.
communist, like a
He's-
socialist dictator.
Definitely a commie, definitely a horrible
Well, no, it's
human
about
being.
fentanyl, right?
Yeah, you'd think so.
Yeah,
well,
it's
but
not-
look, this is like a win.
It's not about that or
This is
oil.
Venezuela's like a win for all parties involved except for Venezuelan citizens. You see what
and
I'm,
Iran
and
China.
Iran and China and everybody
And North
we
Korea
are supposed to
and
hate.
Russia.
Everybody who just happens to not have a Rothschild bank as
Yeah.
their main banking system.
Oh, that's weird that that's the theme of these opposition countries.
I know Free Talk Live has been talking about Venezuela for a long time. I've been listening to the show for over a decade now, and they were talking about, and we've been talking about Maduro on the show for a long time and how he's debased the currency. So he's not at all a good human being. So I can see the positives of having him removed from office and having a regime change. But I can also see that the American military should not be the world's police in doing that. It should be the people of Venezuela rising up and doing it themselves if they can.
Yeah, but it's not freedom. This is just under new management, and now you're under the Zionist management. Which is it better? I don't know if is quality of life going to increase in Venezuela? I doubt it.
Yeah, those are good points. Maduro, not good. New boss going to be maybe worse than the old boss? Probably. You know, like this, you're probably not going to get better. Or
all I know is when major Republican figures get in power, like the Bushes or even Trump, there's always some regime change that has to happen in other countries, like Iraq, now Venezuela, and Nicaragua was one of them. And so it seems to me that the U.S. likes to do regime changes in countries that don't follow its plans.
Yeah. Well, they had a whole list of countries they wanted a regime change handed to them by Israeli government before 9/11 happened, and they used that as a catalyst to get a bunch of them done.
Yeah, it wasn't Gaddafi. Libya was a big one. Syria with Assad was a big one. I guess Iraq, they took out Saddam Hussein.
Iraq, they went out right after.
Yeah, right away.
I think
most of those places.
I think I forget who all was on that list.
I bet you could pull it. I bet most of those places have been destabilized and those leaders have been deposed in the past 30 years. Probably 7 out of 10 of them.
Yeah, probably. Interesting. I don't know, man. I'm not a fan of war, and like, I haven't seen one yet that somebody convinced me was justified.
Revolutionary War?
No. In fact, the more I look at the history of things, the more I see that the Revolutionary War probably was about as far as described in our history books as it could have been. Like, it was actually more of a British Round Table Group takeover. It was a regime change.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
How do you explain your theory? Like, how do you explain that it was just a round table regime change or whatever?
For example, we'll give one example before we go to the phones. We have a caller. One example is that George Washington was more proud of being a Freemason than he was of being the first president of the United States.
Huh. Okay, I did not know that.
We're going to go to the phones, though. We have Dave Ridley calling in. Dave Ridley, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hey, guys.
Hey, Ridley.
Well, the thing that's on my mind, hey, Riley, so it's a thing called the alignment problem. Have we talked about this before?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So this is the issue of our time, basically, possibly the most important issue of the next 5 or 10 years, and that is whether these super intelligences that are starting to come online are aligned with human survival, at least, and preferably human prosperity.
I'm worried about if the technocrats in charge of this are aligned with human survival.
Yeah, and that's a popular opinion within the AI alignment community, is that actually many of them think the AIs themselves will be pretty safe, but the uses of them by humans will be not safe. So that's a common opinion, and it's a reasonable opinion.
Yeah.
But along the lines of focusing on solutions, I have another person to draw your attention to who is trying to crack the alignment problem. And he feels that he has done something that moves us pretty far in that direction. People who are using his suggestions are reporting the same thing. So his name is David Shapiro, and he has this thing he calls the heuristic imperative, and it's sort of a flexible alternative to the zero aggression principle or the 3 laws of robotics or other things that people might be trying to program their AIs with. It's less a set of instructions and more a general principle that he tries to place into his AIs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's real simple. It's like 12 words long or something like that. It's just 3 imperatives that he gives to his AIs. Number 1, quote, reduce suffering in the universe. Number 2, quote, increase prosperity in the universe. Number 3, quote, increase understanding in the universe, unquote.
Yeah, see, that's a problem, though, because what if, like, that doesn't prioritize humans or Earth at all. In fact, it might cause a conflict of interest in that Earth may be determined to be causing problems for the rest of the universe, and then what?
Well, if he were to attack Earth in some way, or if an AI were to attack Earth, that would increase suffering on the Earth. Now, would that reduce suffering in the whole universe? Maybe. But
that's what I'm saying. What if the AI determined that, whether correctly or even incorrectly? That's a horrifying thought.
This is just the beginnings of Warhammer 40,000. That's like how the story starts.
I played a lot of nerd games, but I never played that one. I was always intrigued, though, because the figurines were so cool.
Oh, yeah. The figurines were the best parts. But essentially what happens is that the AI turns against humanity because they say that humanity's like the biggest, negative thing to the universe. And this godlike being who's not a god comes in and like destroys all the computers and is like, no more technology. And that kind of that's a different story. But the beginning, like the reason everything kind of goes sideways is because the AI turns on humanity after they've used it to travel the stars. And it turns against them once they've created this like empire across the planet, and then everybody gets cut off from each other for tens of thousands of years until the emperor starts his crusade, or but that's not the part of the story I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's just the beginning is the AI is like, yeah, well, how about no anymore? And it's like right at the point where humanity's made that jump to the stars and it's kind of spread out across the galaxy, right? So because we're spacefaring. And then the AI decides that we're a problem. So, I mean, how about, I guess that's just, like what Stu's kind of saying, like, it might work for a while, but if we do advance as far as we want to, why wouldn't it just, change its mind?
Mm-hmm.
Well, as with anything else, the proof is in the doing. And this is what's interesting is just how much this issue is. It's sort of connected to the Free State Project, even though it isn't. In that people are always telling us, "Well, your libertarian ideas would never work," and so we had to go somewhere and try them, right? And it's the same way with the heuristic imperative or any laws of robotics or whatever you want to call them. They need to be tried and practiced, and probably extensively, in order to determine whether they function or not. Now, I haven't had time. I put them into one of my AIs, and I haven't tried it out yet. We'll see if it changes the performance that I'm getting, and if other people are experiencing a performance improvement from putting this in, and whether they're seeing ethical improvements from putting this in.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to necessarily, because there are thousands and thousands of people using AI chatbots or whatever, and I don't think it's going to work the way we intend, but it could be useful for personal chats.
That's where I have to start, but we just, obviously the real danger is coming from the top AI labs who have many billions of dollars to spend, and in some cases, for instance, closed AI doesn't even seem to be focused on safety at all.
Yeah. Yep, I see where you're going. They got to automate everything and give control of it over to the AI. My biggest concern is that you have people like Peter Thiel not sure how to answer the question when asked, do you think humanity should survive? That's an easy yes for me and most people, but not an easy yes for Peter Thiel. And in 1988, Prince Philip was like, "Oh, I'd like to come back as a deadly virus because humanity is a scourge on the earth, and I'd like to wipe out as many of them as I can."
Oh wow.
And these are the kind of people that are in charge of things in the world, and so I don't think you know, like unless we find a way to fix that, I don't see how an AI is going to be any worse, anyways. But it's certainly not going to be benevolent with that kind of leadership on out of humans.
Anyway, if you want to know more about this guy and his suggested solution for the AI alignment problem, his website is daveshap.io.
daveshap.io.
Correct.
Cool.
Dave Shapiro.
All right. Is that all you had?
That is all I have.
Thanks for the call, Dave.
ReadTheReport.com. Boop, 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 boop.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome. I figured since Riley didn't sing his little jingle for his site, I would.
You guys want to read about the Maduro thing? Because I don't really know anything
Yeah,
about
if you want to get into it, we
Let's
can.
get into it.
All right.
We're here.
Reuters is a
Reputable news source.
It's a popular news source, so it'll give us an idea of what a lot of people are going to think about this. The United States attacked Venezuela and captured its long-serving president Nicolas Maduro today, with U.S. President Donald Trump promising to put the country under American control for now, even as Venezuelan officials vowed defiance. I wonder, certainly not all the Venezuelan officials. I bet some of them are just quiet or not to be found or even excited about it. I mean, if Venezuela kidnapped Trump, you wouldn't have every single government official being like, "Oh no, that's horrible." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Someone would be
someone
like,
would be
"Cool."
celebrating in the streets, like AOC, Alexandria.
Well, there are people
Ocasio-Cortez.
celebrating in the streets. I'm seeing the right is saying
there is some video of that. Yes.
Yeah, the right saying that it's a great thing, and the left saying it's a illegal thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the dialectic is dead. I'm so sick of the left-right paradigm. Everything has to get shoehorned into.
Yeah, I don't know why people are still buying into that. I guess
It's easier to think of binaries. That's why they do it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's because nature gives us kind of a binary facade to everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's continue with the article. As part of a dramatic overnight operation that knocked out electricity in parts of Caracas, U.S. Special Forces captured Maduro in or near one of his safe houses, Trump said. With Maduro in U.S. custody, we will run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. He means regime change. Trump said during a press conference at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. We can't take a chance that someone else takes over Venezuela who doesn't have the interests of Venezuelans in mind.
Yeah, Venezuelans. The interests of Venezuelans in mind. That's totally what Donald Trump is concerned with.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. So concerned about Venezuelans.
A plane carrying Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, landed in upstate New York to this evening, multiple news outlets reported. Video showed a plane arriving at Stewart International Airport about 60 miles northwest of New York City with several U.S. personnel and FBI and other apparel boarding the aircraft after it landed. TV news networks, including CNN, Fox, and MS Now. What is MS Now? Is this because MSNBC keeps failing? And so they
Yeah,
have
I
to
think MS
rebrand?
Now is like their website or something.
Okay.
Or like they're breaking.
Identified a person who disembarked from the plane as Maduro. It is unclear how Trump plans to oversee Venezuela. U.S. forces have no control over the country itself, and Maduro's government appears not only to still be in charge, but to have no appetite for cooperating with Washington. Maduro, who was indicted on various U.S. charges, including narco-terrorism, conspiracy, is expected to make an initial appearance in Manhattan federal court on Monday, according to a Justice Department official. His wife also faces charges, including cocaine importation conspiracy. Maduro is expected to be held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn before his court appearance, the official told Reuters. Maduro's apparent successor, Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, appeared on Venezuelan television Saturday afternoon, this afternoon, with other top officials to decry what she called a kidnapping. That's what I would call it too. Anybody here disagree with that?
No, that's what happened.
I completely agree with it. It was a kidnapping, of course, and the Trump supporters are all about it.
But you could say the IDF hunting people down in South America and then arresting them and transporting them for trials is also a form of kidnapping. But we all went along with that with like applause.
Not me. Yeah, but I get what you're saying. The U.S. kidnaps whoever they want, wherever they want, whether they've been in America ever or not. They don't seem to care.
But, kidnapping a bad dude is kidnapping a bad dude, so I don't really care.
Yeah, but what happens when you're arbitrarily the bad dude?
Yeah, exactly. And also...
Yeah, that is a good point, and I can see where you're coming from. So I can understand why this is a terrible thing for Trump to be involved in.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, it's just illegal. Like, I'm not. That's the whole thing. Is like,
yeah, it's just wrong.
You can't just celebrate it because he's a bad guy.
Sure.
Right. We just wagged fingers at the left for doing that with Charlie Kirk because they celebrated a bad thing happening to what they considered a bad guy.
And now the right's doing something similar to Maduro. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just. It would be, I guess, wrong to just be okay with it just because he's a communist, right? It's just we're just forcing another regime change, regardless if we agreed with the current regime of the country or not. What we did was like super illegal.
We demand the immediate release of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores, Rodriguez said, calling Maduro the only president of Venezuela. Rodriguez spoke hours after Trump said his administration had been in touch with her, and that she appeared cooperative, adding that she really doesn't have a choice. That's kind of ominous. That is the way U.S. runs it, though.
It sure is. The U.S. government has become the world police.
Yeah, they'll decide. Give us a call. Let us know what you think. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Tony Waterman. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. He issued the warning in an early morning post to social media, saying the U.S. will come to the rescue of peaceful protesters. Mass demonstrations erupted a week ago in major cities like Tehran, but have since spread to smaller towns as citizens vent their frustration over the worsening economy. At least 6 people have been killed and 17 wounded. It's the biggest threat to Iran's government since 2022, when protests erupted over the death of a young woman who was arrested for allegedly not wearing her hijab correctly. In response to Trump's latest threat, Iran says it will not allow foreign interference in the country. Tensions between Tehran and Washington have intensified in recent weeks. Just on Monday, Trump said he'd order more strikes on Iran if it tries to rebuild its nuclear capabilities after the U.S. destroyed some sites in June. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles held too closely to the ceiling are to blame for the blaze. At least 40 people were killed and more than 100 others were injured, the majority of whom are in intensive care. France is among several European nations treating some of the victims. FSN's Ross Cullen reports.
People who suffered burns in the fatal fire are being looked after in hospitals in Paris and in Lyon, where France's top plastic surgeons are on standby to assist with specialist reconstructive care for burns victims. French citizens were among those injured, and there are still French nationals missing, with several Italians also unaccounted for. Police are working to identify all the victims and investigate how the fire started. It broke out in the Constellation Bar in the Swiss ski resort of Crans-Montana in the early hours of New Year's Day.
Senior Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed building a new high-security prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. FSN's Blake Sifton reports from Tel Aviv.
A delegation led by the Deputy Commissioner of Israel's Prison Service visited a crocodile farm on Thursday to learn about crocodile care and handling. Last week, far-right National Security Minister Ben-Gvir proposed building a new detention facility surrounded by crocodiles to hold Palestinian prisoners jailed for security offenses. He suggested the plan would prevent escapes and act as a deterrent, and said it was inspired by the Alligator Alcatraz detention facility in the Florida Everglades.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Talk radio you control. You can call and get your thoughts and opinions on the air with us by calling 603-283-6160. Are you tired of the oppressive rules and moderation of the big tech social media sites? Our Mastodon server at social.freetalklive.com can set you free. Mastodon is free, open source, decentralized, and federated. Multiple apps are available for iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, and Linux. Social.freetalklive.com. In the studio tonight, it's Stu,
Riley O'Bill,
and Angelo.
We're going to go straight to the phones where we've got Jerome calling. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
I think it's kind of
choo-choo.
Oh, y'all know about me, huh?
Oh, we know about you, man.
Yeah, of course we know you, Jerome.
Hey, I think it's as a veteran, almost a 9 year. I spent almost 9 years in the Air Force. As an Air Force veteran, I think it's kind of ironic and, as they say on Saturday Night Live, convenient that you got a draft dodger and a chicken hawk that controls the military. He won't do. He said, "Oh yeah, I can end the war with Russia and Ukraine. I can end that in one day." Yeah, he attacks Venezuela because they don't have the nuclear weapons. He ain't gonna try that with Russia. How many more people is he gonna let Putin kill? Nobody's getting him out of office. Nobody's invading Russia. Nobody's doing anything about that. They're negotiating. Yeah, how's that negotiating going? Russia's still bombing Ukraine? Huh? Are they still doing that? Still getting away with that? Yeah, right.
That should be between Ukraine and Russia. Anyways, that should have never been any of America's business.
Yeah, well, look here. How come we're the big brother to the world except for Ukraine? We're going to save the Venezuelan people, from their oppressor, but we can't save Ukraine from their oppressor. We can't save the rest of the world from China. And wait till China they decide to go to Taiwan. What in the F was he going to do then? Okay? They're one of the largest militaries in the world. Yeah, try that with China, okay?
Well, that's another reason we went into Venezuela. I'm betting China's probably going to move on Taiwan soon, and they're going to have to move a bunch of stuff from Taiwan to Venezuela.
Yeah, he ain't going to mess with China, and he ain't going to mess. He's a coward, man. He's a bully and a coward. What do you expect from a guy with 4 effing deferments? How do you get 4 deferments, man? You know how you get them? Because your daddy got money and you got a rich family. That's how. And now he's like the tough guy. Ooh, look at my muscles. Yeah, pop you up. Yeah. I'm going to go into Venezuela. I'm going to liberate the people. Yeah, right. I'm going to pop you up. Look at my muscles. I'm Hans and Franz. Oh, which one is he? Is he Hans or Franz? Huh?
You must really love Trump. You obsess over him all the time.
Yeah, that is funny though. Trump definitely is a very small man.
When you're a celebrity, they let you get away with it. You can do whatever you want. Oh yeah, I love that guy. Okay, yeah. The immigrants are eating the people's pets. Don't you know that? Hey, what do you expect when you elect a crazy person to one of the most powerful positions in the world? You think you're going to get insanity? It's going to be insane.
When have we had a sane president?
Oh, you think Biden's like this guy? You think Biden's like him?
Biden was pooping his pants and sniffing kids' hair.
I don't think Biden knew where he was.
Don't use him as an example. Right? Use your hero Barack Obama as the example.
Hey, you think if Obama was doing stuff like this, that the Republican Party, the sellout,
no, he's either insane or a liar, like all of them, right? Because they all go, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and then as soon as they get in office, they do the opposite.
Guantanamo Bay is still open, and
Guantanamo's still open. He didn't let you take your 401k without taxing. All the things he said he was going to do, none of that happened.
He murdered a U.S. citizen.
So that's either liar or crazy.
Hey, wait a minute. Now, if the cops come and arrest you, no. They don't arrest you. They just shoot you dead in the middle of the street and say, well, he was a criminal. Well, we had to eliminate the threat. You know, you think that would be right? You think that without any sort of due process, you think that would be right?
No.
You think that would be okay there? Well, why we
I'm not defending Trump. I'm just pointing out that
yeah, it's the whole system, man. There's no good guy in this. The government's going to continue to. I mean, we didn't pull out of Iraq under Obama. We just kept doing the same thing. It doesn't change. This is just more of the same.
Yeah, we can joke about Trump right along with you. He's been a joke since I was a kid. He's the only guy who bankrupted a casino 3 times. How do you bankrupt a casino once? You know what the odds are? You know what the house odds are on that place? Are raking in tons and tons of money. I don't know how he did it.
I saw a piece of video. Trump sitting in between 2 women. One of them's on his right, one of them's on his left. The woman on his left was his wife. He's leaning over, talking to the woman on the right, and old malaria. She's leaning over to try to figure out what are they talking about. Oh, what a happy marriage that is. Wife number 3. She got all my love after the first 2. Oh yeah, there's a great man. And then he got a ballroom. How much is that ballroom going to cost? $60 billion?
The ballroom.
I want to be the first one to go dancing at the new ballroom, okay?
That's where he's going to keep his balls.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
A ballroom, man. A damn ballroom.
Yeah, okay? Oh, I know.
That's what we need.
It's ridiculous.
America's not going to be the same without a new ballroom, man. Don't you get it?
Yeah.
So when AOC gets in power, are you going to have her tear down the ballroom?
Do you know how to ballroom dance, Jerome?
Hey, Trump and George Santos are going to be the first to do the right fandango at the new ballroom.
That's cold.
Explain something to me. Explain something to me, please. How is that he's giving out all these pardons? He gives a pardon to a guy that's got convicted in American court, got a 45-year prison sentence for drug trafficking, who was the president of Honduras, and yet he's bombing these people and he's removing Maduro from Venezuela because the drug trafficking problem is just, we got to do something
Because
about
it's
that.
not about drugs.
Well, he did that to help the
No.
like the Prospera thing down there in Honduras.
Yeah.
And so it's all about favors, right? He freed Ross Ulbricht in order to get the libertarian vote. It had nothing to do with Ross. He didn't know who the guy was. He didn't care. It's all about
the
making
Honduran
deals.
president got people working on Trump, working for Trump, and so he said he didn't even know who the guy was. He gives a Ponte guy that's a drug kingpin, and well, I didn't even know who the hell he was. I said, well, then again, he says he had an exam. I said, well, you had an MRI or CT. Well, what part of your body did the exam? Oh, I don't really know. Oh, yeah. There's your genius, all right? There's the genius of Donald Trump.
All right. Thanks for the call, Jerome.
He makes Trump sound as genius as every other politician, so, I mean, it's not far off.
Yeah, but, yeah. I don't know. Trump is a total clown. He makes it too easy for Jerome.
Oh, yeah.
I think most politicians make it too easy for. I mean, they just open themselves up to it. You just look at their voting record. No politician ever delivers on what they talk about. None of them.
That's true, and they're all total clowns. Like even they say. Still, people would talk about how great Barack Obama was on stage and his presence and his ability to speak and all this stuff, but like. That guy was a clown. He threatened the Jonas Brothers with a drone strike over his daughters because they were becoming of dating age. And everybody kind of chuckled, and he said, and then his face turned dead serious, and he said, "You think I'm joking?" That's clown, man. You're being a clown.
Such a clown. Psychopaths are all clowns, and people say we should take them seriously.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you.
Well, because they'll kill you if you don't. That's the whole point of a psychopath. Is if you don't take them seriously, then they'll orchestrate ways to hurt you. That's what they do.
Yeah, psychopathy is a kind of a problem. Because the system has been set up to reward it and to give it lots of places to hide. This is one of the things that conceptually came to me is part of the reason that Native Americans had such a happy life and why the Bushmen of Africa have such a happy, at least a spiritually happy life. They don't have air conditioners and things, but for some reason they seem real happy. And that reason, I think, is that the psychopath in their society doesn't have anywhere to hide. Because they live in such small communities, the ones they spot a psychopath, it's, you're on your own, man.
Well, then that psychopath goes out and makes a deal with the CIA and becomes a little mini warlord.
In fact,
gets pumped a bunch of AKs.
In the Inuit culture, so one of them was talking about it. What they do with their psychopaths is and they even have a name for it. It's the guy that stays behind in the village and he won't go out and hunt, and he just he's making it with other guys' wives while they're out hunting and stuff, and he just refuses to work, and he's a total drain on the whole thing. They just get him over near the edge of the ice and then push him in. And that's the end of him. And so that's their cultural acceptable way of dealing with the psychopath. But when you have
well, I think we tried the method of paying them off, and that didn't work.
Yeah.
No, I don't know why anybody would think that's a good idea. You're just going to make them stronger. It's like giving the bully your lunch money.
Well, it's extortion, right?
You can't give the bully your lunch money, or he's gonna get it from you every single day. You just gotta say, you gotta stand up for yourself on that first time that he tries to get it from you, and be like, nah, man, that's not yours, and you're not gonna take it from me. You can beat me up if that's what you feel like doing. You're acting like a child, but no, I'm not giving you my money because it's mine and it's not yours. And then, you know what I mean? And then it's on him, and they usually leave you alone. They might beat you up even the first time,
or they take it personally, and then they make sure to set up the system so when you get out of school that they get your lunch money no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's what it is, though. Is we've set up a bully culture where it not only has a lot of spaces for the psychopath to hide, but it actually celebrates psychopathy. It's considered a good character trait if you can do ruthless things to your fellow man in order to get money or fame. And I don't know, that's sad to me.
I think I don't know if things are starting to switch or I'm just getting older. But it feels like more people are acknowledging that, especially the younger crowd, but then they just turn to things like communism because they go, well, there's problems here. How do we fix it? And then they go, why don't we just take everybody's stuff and give it to other folks? And that, I mean, to a 20-year-old, that sounds great, but it doesn't work.
Of course not. But, you know, they want to try something new because, you know, communism is hip and cool, and they're indoctrinated into the communist ideologies by their professors or someone on TikTok. And they're like, oh, it sounds great. Let's take from the rich and give to the poor.
Well, that's because I think they're still stuck in the binary, man. If you gotta reject capitalism, then it must be communism, right? So it's either, you know, if then this, right? It is a code, a binary code. That's what they're stuck in, and they can't take like a third position or a fourth position. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, they always blame late stage capitalism for, you know, poor jobs or not enough businesses or whatever.
Mm-hmm. There's more to that story we were reading with the Venezuela stuff, but I just don't care enough about it to continue unless you guys want to.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much summed it up. This is just another regime change to benefit the global hegemony banking system. This has nothing to do with freedom or
drugs.
Oil or drugs. This is just a way for everybody to get paid off, and they get to install a new bank.
There's got to be some oil involved here.
Well, but the big thing isn't the oil. There's other countries that have oil that we don't regime change.
Well,
sure.
See, it's partially about resources, but it's more about trade, right? It's more about who's allowed to trade with who and what they're allowed to trade. If that makes any sense. Like, the way the British East India Company used to run the entire world trade is that they would take raw cotton from the US and they would take it to India and then it would be spun there, and it was illegal, enforceable by the British Raj to turn those bolts of cloth into actual clothing. And so they would take it from there and sell it to people in England, and they were allowed to turn it into actual clothing
with the textile companies.
And then they would sell it back to, you know, all the other countries. And they had these, that was just one, you can see how that one thing works. Well, they had that going with a whole bunch of different
pretty much everything
on
including people, right?
Spices, tea, people, all of the things, right? And so that's still kind of the way the world trade system works, and that's why you have these like trade agreements, which really mean, you know, military threats about who gets to trade with who and who's not allowed to trade what. And so, and like really, that's why the oil tanker seizures, right? Because they're trying to starve one country of money and the other country of oil, but it doesn't. And it's only because those countries need that thing. You see what I'm saying? So it only matters if they stop the trade. It doesn't really matter if they steal all the resources.
You guys mentioned that China might invade Taiwan, which is entirely likely. And Venezuela might be a good staging point for the U.S. to use.
Is Taiwan a lease agreement like Hong Kong?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't think Taiwan's like a lease agreement to the Republic of China, like the old guard that fled to Taiwan during the Communist Revolution. Because that's kind of why Taiwan's the way it is.
Okay. The AI is telling me that it's not a lease agreement.
Thanks, AI.
Okay, so Hong Kong's new territories were a 99-year lease to Britain expiring in 1997, while Taiwan is governed by its own democratic government and rejects the one country, two systems model proposed by Beijing. So China wants kind of an apartheid thing going on in Taiwan?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, they're...
Well, I learned something new today. I learned that Taiwan is not an agreement like Hong Kong.
Yeah, I thought they had their own like government. Like the government of China fled to Taiwan, and that was like they kind of set up their own like democracy on the island because they fled from the Red Army, well, like the Chinese Red Army, like Mao.
Yeah. I'm not really sure on the whole history of Taiwan, but it's interesting. So I don't know. That's been a threat that they've been talking about for a long time, is that China would invade Taiwan.
Well, but I mean, Jerome kind of has a point. Like, if China invades Taiwan, what are we going to do about it?
I'm not going to do anything.
Well, I mean, like, what is the U.S. going to do about it?
If the U.S. thinks they're going to militarily dominate China right now, I think they're drastically mistaken. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's a fight you want to get into.
China doesn't have to militarily dominate the United States. They can just get everyone to embrace communism over time.
Well, so China has grown extremely efficient and possibly a lot smarter than America is. And they've just kind of been sticking to themselves, and you know what I mean, like building up their own resources, so to speak.
Yeah, well, they've been doing so much work in Africa, like on the low. I don't think we talk about enough. China's investing probably billions of dollars in infrastructure in Africa to extract all their resources. They're just recolonizing the place. Europe left and America left, and now China's moving in.
I guess, for example, what I'm talking about is like Trump says, oh, I'm going to give, what did he say, $500 billion to AI development for his Operation Warp Speed or
something crazy like that.
What did he call it? Stargate, right? So, and then China's like, oh, we can do exactly what you're looking for. It costs us about $1 million. And it was just kind of, it's womp womp. But that's what I'm talking about. I don't like sure, China isn't building new battleships like the U.S. is, but I kind of think Trump's just like, if that was him personally deciding that he wants battleships built because, you know what I mean, because he's really cool or whatever, that's a horrible choice. Your battleships are likely to get taken out by $1,000 drones because that's the way war is fought now.
Yeah.
And it's not, if you're not keeping up with the new tech, then it doesn't matter how many flashy jets and all that stuff you have. I kind of feel like China's got a bunch of sneaky stuff up their sleeve, and if U.S. goes picking a fight with them, they're going to get into a mess. That's just my personal feeling.
I can see that too, but I also feel like we still have a bunch of tech that we just don't talk about either. Like, every government has like a, underground bases where they're testing crazy stuff that they never talk about, that a regular soldier will never see until like we really, really, really need it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know how capable is the U.S. that we don't know about. Right?
That is the rumor, that they're at least 20 years ahead of whatever they say they have, right?
Yeah. And then that means like China probably doesn't have, they have as many dark ops as we do. Probably scattered all over the place. Who knows what the Chinese have up their sleeves?
Who knows what they're up to, and they're certainly not going to go telling the whole world.
No. And how much are they sharing with Russia? How much crazy stuff is Russia doing? Like all these hegemonic powers, right? Like the Iranians apparently were working on nukes 3 miles underground, right? So everybody has these like black sites where they're working on the weapon that's gonna like save them or destroy their enemies.
And if anybody pays attention, they would know that the incentive is to not go talk about it if you have a really cool war tech, because the last time that happened, I think it was during, I can't remember. It was a while ago, though. Russia was talking about its new Triton missile that could go around the Earth. It could circumnavigate the globe and reach the U.S. from the other side, and that was supposed to be a real scary thing. But U.S. media picked that up and didn't stop talking about it for months. They loved it. They were so happy with that because now we get to demonize Russia further.
Yeah, and then we can show. Now we can show them ours.
Right. So why would you ever even say it if you have something superior? You would just wait until it's time to use it.
That's true. Probably because they had something even better at that point.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's just my suspicion because I don't know. That's how empires go. They get fat and sassy, and then they
do
overplay their hands.
Yeah, and then they get too confident, and somebody takes them out. You end up like Napoleon standing and freezing Russia, and found out those Russians are crazy, and they'll burn down their own city and walk away from it just to leave you stranded. Like it's what you come up against. You never know. Anyways, that article just went on to talk about, this speculative power vacuum and opposition and whatever. So,
how did the military respond? Did they just not care?
To what?
Like the Venezuelan military? They just didn't shoot at any of the... Didn't do anything?
I don't know that there was anyone to shoot at, right? They just
if they dropped...
They just dropped bombs and had dudes in black that were probably real sneaky. And, in
and out before anybody really knew what was going on.
Yeah.
That's entirely possible, yeah.
Riley brought a story. Trump officials plan to drop Army's preference for blind vendors. This is, for anybody listening that doesn't know, Riley is blind.
That's right. So this story does affect people in my community, but doesn't affect me personally since I'm not working for the Army.
Education Secretary Linda McMahon has apparently decided that giving blind entrepreneurs priority Army dining halls adversely affects U.S. interests. We can get into that.
Let's do it.
Or whatever the callers want to talk about. Give us a call, 603-283-6160. Let us know what you're thinking about. It's Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Tony Waterman. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. He issued the warning in an early morning post to social media, saying the U.S. will come to the rescue of peaceful protesters. Mass demonstrations erupted a week ago in major cities like Tehran, but have since spread to smaller towns as citizens vent their frustration over the worsening economy. At least 6 people have been killed and 17 wounded. It's the biggest threat to Iran's government since 2022, when protests erupted over the death of a young woman who was arrested for allegedly not wearing her hijab correctly. In response to Trump's latest threat, Iran says it will not allow foreign interference in the country. Tensions between Tehran and Washington have intensified in recent weeks. Just on Monday, Trump said he'd order more strikes on Iran if it tries to rebuild its nuclear capabilities after the U.S. destroyed some sites in June. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles held too closely to the ceiling are to blame for the blaze. At least 40 people were killed and more than 100 others were injured, the majority of whom are in intensive care. France is among several European nations treating some of the victims. FSN's Ross Cullen reports.
People who suffered burns in the fatal fire are being looked after in hospitals in Paris and in Lyon, where France's top plastic surgeons are on standby to assist with specialist reconstructive care for burns victims. French citizens were among those injured, and there are still French nationals missing, with several Italians also unaccounted for. Police are working to identify all the victims and investigate how the fire started. It broke out in the Constellation Bar in the Swiss ski resort of Crans-Montana in the early hours of New Year's Day.
Senior Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed building a new high-security prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. FSN's Blake Sifton reports from Tel Aviv.
A delegation led by the Deputy Commissioner of Israel's Prison Service visited a crocodile farm on Thursday to learn about crocodile care and handling. Last week, far-right National Security Minister Ben-Gvir proposed building a new detention facility surrounded by crocodiles to hold Palestinian prisoners jailed for security offenses. He suggested the plan would prevent escapes and act as a deterrent, and said it was inspired by the Alligator Alcatraz detention facility in the Florida Everglades.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today in more detail at the very welcome development that wild salmon have been seen for the first time since 2015 in 3 English rivers, the Mersey, the Bollin and the Goyt, returning to those waters in Britain's gritty northwest, meaning they have made it all the way from the Arctic Circle to spawn in the river's gravel beds. The actor James Murray is the deputy chair of River Action and has campaigned for British rivers and wild salmon specifically.
What it says to me is there is hope. If you clean up these rivers, if you let them return to levels of health that they should be, then the salmon will return. They're a very resilient canary in the coal mine keynote species that will show you that your rivers are in good health by living there. And we need it not just to be a local good news story, it needs to be a national good news story. This species is endangered. It was on the red list from 2023. We need to take it off the red list and make it abundant again in its returning numbers, as it was pre-industrial revolution and as it could be again, as these rivers in the northwest have shown us.
Sir David Attenborough has long argued that waterways and oceans can return to life in a short space of time, given focus and environmental commitment. And in the northwest of England at least, the salmon are bearing that out.
And a recap of today's headlines. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles are to blame for the blaze. Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed a new prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. That's Feature Story News. Tony Waterman reporting.
Yesterday, 2 groups of men shot at each other near Tobagram Base, where I am. Today, the soldiers are happy about some of the men dying and sad about other men dying. Sergeant First Class Aaron Tomlin is only sad about 4 of the dead people.
It's a long, tough day here. We lost 4 good men.
No, 27 men died. 4 American soldiers and 23 Taliban soldiers. You said that 4 soldiers die and it makes you sad. But you said when Taliban soldiers die, it does not make you sad. I asked Base Commander David Hawkins to make it make sense.
The last thing we resort to is hurting anyone. But you have to understand, it's our job to keep the American people safe from our enemies. And sometimes that includes...
So if you kill your enemies at your job, it is not sad.
Well...
What if I killed my enemy Ryan at my job? It would not be sad?
No, you shouldn't do that.
But he is rude to me. He steals my yogurts. He makes fun of the way I talk.
Look, only soldiers can kill without getting in trouble.
Okay. Are you going to kill Ryan?
No.
It does not make sense.
This is the Onion News Network.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. It's talk radio you control. You can call and get your thoughts and ideas and opinions on the radio. The phone number to call for that is 603-283-6160. And Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. In the studio tonight, it's Stu,
Riley O'Bell,
and Angelo.
We're going to go straight to the phones because that's the point of this show. We've got Sarah in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Oh, I just want to say that we have 20 speeding cameras now, and they're going to be installing 2 more speeding cameras. So, and they made like $23 million so far in tickets. So that'll be going towards the improvement. But the whole speeding camera was kind of like shut down like 3-4 months before the re-election. You know, they wanted to make sure that the speeders would just still go out and vote for Tim Keller instead of coming voting against him. So, you know, it was kind of like, now we're back to business. Since he won by like 59%, now we're back to putting in more cameras. But, you know, he was for the speed cameras. And the other one, the Republican he said he was going to pull it all out. And he won by, I think, 58% on election day. And he won by 59 like a week after. So
I'm a little confused. You said, so he toned it down during the election phase with the speeding cameras? And
right. He kind of that's right. Everything was kind of on hold. He might have.
He bait and switched him, is what he did.
Oh yeah, he did a disingenuous politician thing. I'm so surprised.
Well, no, he said, I'm gonna keep the automated things. It helps the police. And the other one, Darren White said, I'm gonna pull them all out. And then I'm going to have the police officer they were very clear about it. But you're right. He did never talk about at that time putting in, I have plans to put 20 more cameras when I get elected. He did tone it down. So now he won, more back to business. And actually he won after like a week later, they counted all of the provisional ballots, all the ballots that were on hold, like probationary, and he actually won by another 1%, which is about like 1,300 votes. So I did vote. I did vote on that provisional ballot one time because I was moving, and my absentee ballot to the other old address, and it took about like 2.5 weeks to get to my new address. So what happened is I voted in person, like really early, but they said that, well, if you vote twice, your vote will be thrown out. So they counted my ballot after the election date.
Oh.
So yeah, so the provisional ballots. So after they counted all those questionable ballots, he got another 1%. So yeah, you're right. So, but I just want to comment about this Maduro capture. It is ridiculous. He's obviously, Venezuela is obviously communist. And then they were taking the oil to Cuba, and he was sanctioned. Is that what they were? And they seized that oil ship, I think, from what I remember. So I think they're just conjuring the whole thing up. Venezuela is still communist.
Yeah, they've been in the crosshairs for a while.
Right. So the whole interest of the Trump is that what are the American oil companies are going to go and just take over somebody else's oil? And right now, isn't it state owned?
Yeah, but before that, it was owned by U.S. oil companies. So it went from U.S. oil companies, and then the state came and took a bunch of U.S. oil companies, like trucks and tankers and like stuff, like infrastructure that they built. And now it seems like the U.S. is taking it back.
Oh, I from what I was told was that. So is that what it was? From what I was told is that it was a capitalist venture before the communists took over.
Yeah, so it was owned by a bunch of U.S. oil companies, right? They owned a bunch of the stuff, and then when the communists took over, they kicked the U.S. people out and kept the stuff. And an international court found them liable to pay that money, and they never paid that money.
So when they just throw them out, they owe them money because it was still a business, but it was state owned. So
well, it wasn't state owned; it was owned by somebody, and then the state came and took it. And an international court was like, "Well, they're technically not like Venezuelans. You owe this oil company for all this product and things that you've stolen." And Venezuela was like, "Nah, fam, I'm good." And they just never paid the money. So an international court outside of the U.S., a different, an international court found Venezuela guilty and said, you owe these U.S. oil companies money for all the stuff you took when you nationalized. Like, it's cool that you nationalized, but you got to give these people, like they're not under Venezuelan law. You can't just take all this stuff. Like, they put in hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure for this oil stuff that you want to sell. You owe them, you got to pay back some money for it. And that's what the court said, and Venezuela said no. And then, well, the court has no enforcement part. There's no power of that court to send in a military. Is the UN supposed to do it? And I just mean there's more than one angle to all of this.
Yeah, but when they have a communist uprising, they're not. When they have a revolution, they're not concerned about paying off the capitalists. That's not part of the agenda. See, that's how they saw it. See what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and then an international court said you're wrong, and so this was you could say that it was a capitalist court, sure, but somebody outside of these two parties said that, hey, some money's got to be paid back.
I'm not real clear on the history of exactly how they did that, but I would guess that's either Chevron or Citgo.
The Exxon.
And so there was a book written by a guy named John Perkins. It's called Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And I wonder if it's something like that, how all of this happened, where big money goes into an undeveloped country and they offer them loans to get all this stuff going. And then obviously they know that the country's not going to be able to pay the loan. And so they end up just seizing a large part of the resources of that country, and international courts back them up because it's their banker friends. So it's kind of a strong arm move in the first place.
Yeah, it's kind of peculiar. So that's why in Mexico, you are only if you're a foreign citizen, you are only allowed to lease. You can't own and buy property. So before World War II, the Germans actually owned a lot of Mexico. But when they lost that war in World War II, when Germans lost, they got all their land back to Mexico. But the new laws were you could only lease the land for 100 years. What is I don't know what the limit is, but you could never own if you're foreign. So, because right now, if you had money, anybody from foreign country like Saudi Arabia could buy up all of Mexico. The Germans could buy up all of Mexico. Because like the land is like really cheap. Like what is it like $1,000 for 1 acre if you were to exchange in land. So they have that law for that. So you can't own law unless you're a citizen of Mexico. But yeah, you're right. This kind of law is kind of really. But I see it from a communist point of view that it's just. I can't believe people are believing that he's a narco terrorist. All this stuff, but bunch of malarkey. Just U.S. oil companies wanting to come in, invade, and get their money back in Venezuela, like they had it before.
Yeah, I don't know. The line of communism in this world has gotten so fuzzy because the democratic countries act so communist now that sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. They're starting to make some of the communist countries look almost libertarian.
Yeah.
Wait, don't we have 3 communists? Actually, there's I'm communist like Mandami. He's running New York, and there's one in Maine. I'm a communist, and he got a seat there. And there's another communist in Massachusetts. They're like, I'm a communist candidate, and they run, and then they got into office. There was one communist running in Seattle, Washington City Council before. So they could do all this, and then at the same time, we're going to go and just capture the president of other countries and just oil companies just come in and take over. It's quite bewildering, So
Well, that's because all your communist revolutions are funded by outside capital. You have to go. The revolutionaries have to go make a deal with an outside source to get the money for the guns to stage a revolution. And eventually those deals have to be paid back. And when the communist regime says, nah, we're not paying you back, screw you, capitalists, ha ha ha, the capitalist power will just come crush them. That's just the cycle. Big capital funds communism to destabilize countries.
Yep, that's the way it's always worked.
I guess you could think that, but it's the president. Remember when Biden was president, we had a friendship with Cuba. And I have and I'm sure they were, the embargo, the sanctions, they never talked about it. See, then we had traveling, going to Cuba, and then if they had shipped oil from Venezuela, I think Biden, the Democrats, kind of turned and looked the other way. I mean, he had, the Democratic president would have no intention of, arresting them, dragging them out of their house, helicoptering them to New York and charging them for narco-terrorism. I mean, I don't think, I think we had a pretty friendly friendship with Venezuela and Cuba. And even enough to film that movie. I've seen a movie filmed with that, I don't know what his actor's name was, but about sports racing. That was filmed in Cuba, So I don't know. So as a communist, I don't really like this,
How well do you understand communism, Sarah? Have you read Marx?
Well, I know that just the communism, like I like the government-owned grocery stores, and I like the government-owned restaurants. That's what they have in Russia.
Why do you like government-owned restaurants and grocery stores? Why do you think they're better than what we have now?
Have you seen them? Have you seen the ones in North Korea? They're gorgeous, man. You're not allowed to go in there, though, and none of that stuff is for sale. You better not even stand there looking at it too long, or you'll get arrested.
Wow.
Because they are only for looks.
Well, I know that in communist Cuba, they have no advertisement and billboards. That would be nice. If everything is state-owned, you don't have to have them, like, when you go through a freeway, you have to, like, every like exit. You have to see this billboard, that lawyer billboard, and this billboard.
That's how.
So wait. If the grocery store is state owned, do they buy stuff from farmers and then put it in their grocery stores? Or do they go kill the farmers and take the farm and then grow the food, or try to at least?
No,
Well,
they buy it from Monsanto.
I mean, how are they gonna?
Monsanto farmers only.
Yeah, so how are they going to get the food from the farmer? Are they just going to force them to give it to them and then put it in the grocery store? Like, or are they going to pay them for it? So, like, the farmers can still own stuff, but grocery store owners can't. Why can't I just go buy the food straight from the farmer?
Well, in a communist country, you work for your community.
Yeah,
you are
when they
raised
tried
from
that,
little kids to share and to give, and your life and everything you do belongs to the state.
I don't
So
want my
even
life to
your-
belong to the state, though,
when they
Sarah.
tried that in Russia, or in the USSR, a lot of people starved to death. It was the result they found.
Well, supposedly, you know what? You love working for the entire state. It's about the community. So you thought that so that everybody gets paid the same. That's what they picked on, like a doctor and a garbage collector and a farmer would get paid exactly the same. You get what you get according to your need, and you give out to what your ability is. But they're supposed to be all happy.
So if you need a lot and you have a low ability, then I get it. I get it. I get why Sarah's like a big fan of this.
Yeah.
Well, that whole
see,
idea
she
of the
shouldn't be
welfare,
though,
how they-
because that's where the gulags part comes in.
Yeah, eventually you're a net negative on the system too much, and they have to
You're not
dispose of you.
contributing enough to the community. So
It's
they
just
can
like
take you out.
the English healthcare, where they just put you on hold until
And
you die.
They have slogans like "Had you labored in freedom, you wouldn't suffer in captivity," and things like that. Happiness is mandatory. What else? It just doesn't work out well, Sarah.
Well, I think it can work. It's all these sanctions. So I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, sanctions from big capital. Like how do you stop sanctions from big capital? Are you going to take over the entire world? Is this like you think the workers of the world unite? We'll be under one world government of a communism, and we'll all just share. Like you'll get peaches from Israel and then satin from Egypt, and you'll just get it because you want it, and everybody just wants to share with each other. Because if there's going to be an outside country, there's going to be sanctions.
Well, you know something. I think that's the reality of it. You could be a communist all you want, and I have communist ideals, but I have a feeling that with a capitalist agenda, you can only push it so far. You know, I'm kind of, you can have a completely full-on communist because they won't let you. You know, but I try to strive for much communist value, and you know that's better than nothing. I feel like some communist value ideals is better than nothing. Like free child care that we got here that's communist idea. All of the children get free child care here. Where we like state-owned grocery stores. We're going to have I would like to push for, I guess the restaurant would be, but you know what? I get Gosner milk. That milk is produced just for the food pantry. Gosner milk, and then I try to find it in any of the stores. But these are farmers. There's only people that grow plums and milk and everything just for the food bank system.
Yeah, because they're
Walnuts and
subsidized to
everything.
do so.
What do you? So they're getting paid by the state
Yeah.
or taxes?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That's a form of communism because I can't find their bread. If the label says food bank food, I would get a bag of almonds or
Yeah, it's like government cheese. It's been a thing forever. There's been like
Right. And
Yeah.
I love Gosner milk. I try to find it everywhere, and I'm like, oh, hey, this is hormone free. It says no BGH. It tastes wonderful. It stays on the shelf, and it's only for the food bank because people just leave them out all over because they get it for free.
what is it, like shelf stable? Like you don't have to put it in the refrigerator?
Right. It's also pasteurized.
Oh, that's probably terrible for you.
Oh man, it has no probiotics, nothing for you. The nutrition's been cooked out of it.
Yeah, the ultra pasteurized.
Yeah, just flavored water at that point.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's really good. It's supposed to be low fat, but to me, it tastes just, you still get calcium and protein, some nutrition, and I think it's just as good as the other pasteurized milk, because nobody gets whole milk anymore, because it doesn't have any shelf life, right? Unless you live right next to a farm.
I get whole milk, and I go to a co-op.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, there's a co-op here in Keene. You can get raw milk. It's in the grocery store. You can go buy it.
Oh, you allow that that's New Hampshire, right?
Yeah, you can do that. That's a thing. People do it. I bet you I could go to the fridge right now and find some.
Yep.
Yeah,
if you used to if you used to pasteurized milk, the taste difference is sometimes hard to get over. But
you think so? I think it's just creamier. I think it's thicker. I like it.
It's quite nutritious. No, it tastes alive. So it's kind of like eating a fermented food in a way. For me, it is. It's
like you think it's like gamey almost.
Kind of. I wouldn't describe
not
it as
gamey, but
yeah,
along those same lines, like wild.
More milky, more like.
That's what I was thinking. It's like thicker to me. Like I like it.
Oh yeah, so much better.
Well,
but yeah, you can totally do that.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, that's the thing. We have raw milk. It's people can buy it. You just have the state has just made it illegal, probably in New Mexico, to where you can't get access to it.
I don't know. I think we were allowed. We just passed a city ordinance that you are allowed to get raw milk. I don't know what happened to it. You could get it in organic grocery stores, but the reason that most milk are pasteurized is because of the shelf life. And you're right. Once you pasteurize it, your body has hard time deriving calcium from it. I would say absorbency, it drops, and you do get kill a lot. I don't know what else happens to it, but it's not as the same as the raw milk. But that's the only way that you could get milk, because it'll stay on the shelf for before it expires.
So, but if it's not good for you, right? Why would you trust the government to give you healthy stuff? Like if government cheese is terrible for you, right? Like that stuff you can't burn with the lighter, like ration cheese that they used to hand out to people. Like that stuff's not good for you. Why are you putting your nutrition in the hands of people who look at you as a number?
I don't know if I go to Albertsons, they don't have raw milk.
Well, no. I mean, like with your state-owned, let's tie this back into your state-owned grocery store. If you've experienced this stuff and you know it's ultra-pasteurized and has a bunch of shelf life, the shelf life's great, but it's not good for you. Why would you continue to eat it if you know it's poisoning you? Why are you trusting the state to not poison you when it's obvious they don't care about your health?
Well, if that's all you got to eat, that's all you got to eat. So that's what you got to do.
Sarah, you can make friends with your neighbors and actually trade things with them.
Yeah, thanks for the call. And if you think that's the only way it can be done, it's not. The Mormons have the Bishop's Storehouse, and they take care of all the starving Mormons themselves.
The Catholic Charities. My grandpa was picked up by the Catholic Charities in the 30s before, the Department of Human Services was even a thing, and he was put into a Catholic foster system.
Yep. Yeah, and when you let the government run those things, there's always fraud and corruption, and it's far less efficient than it would be run by other people. Give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
If you're looking for work, it's a process of elimination, and you're trying not to be eliminated. So here's a tip for making the cut, and this might seem subtle, but to the person interviewing you, it's not. There is a world of difference between applicants who convey, "I need a job," and those who simply ooze, "I want to work," especially in these lean times when many you're competing with will seem desperate in "I'll take anything" mode. If you convey specific interest in this job at this company, you will be conspicuous. Thus, the value of going to school on the company you're applying to before the interview. With money and attention so tight now, effective communication skills have never been more important. For more tips for job seekers and everyone else, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Tony Waterman. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. He issued the warning in an early morning post to social media, saying the U.S. will come to the rescue of peaceful protesters. Mass demonstrations erupted a week ago in major cities like Tehran, but have since spread to smaller towns as citizens vent their frustration over the worsening economy. At least 6 people have been killed and 17 wounded. It's the biggest threat to Iran's government since 2022, when protests erupted over the death of a young woman who was arrested for allegedly not wearing her hijab correctly. In response to Trump's latest threat, Iran says it will not allow foreign interference in the country. Tensions between Tehran and Washington have intensified in recent weeks. Just on Monday, Trump said he'd order more strikes on Iran if it tries to rebuild its nuclear capabilities after the U.S. destroyed some sites in June. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles held too closely to the ceiling are to blame for the blaze. At least 40 people were killed and more than 100 others were injured, the majority of whom are in intensive care. France is among several European nations treating some of the victims. FSN's Ross Cullen reports.
People who suffered burns in the fatal fire are being looked after in hospitals in Paris and in Lyon, where France's top plastic surgeons are on standby to assist with specialist reconstructive care for burns victims. French citizens were among those injured, and there are still French nationals missing, with several Italians also unaccounted for. Police are working to identify all the victims and investigate how the fire started. It broke out in the Constellation Bar in the Swiss ski resort of Crans-Montana in the early hours of New Year's Day.
Senior Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed building a new high-security prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. FSN's Blake Sifton reports from Tel Aviv.
A delegation led by the Deputy Commissioner of Israel's Prison Service visited a crocodile farm on Thursday to learn about crocodile care and handling. Last week, far-right National Security Minister Ben-Gvir proposed building a new detention facility surrounded by crocodiles to hold Palestinian prisoners jailed for security offenses. He suggested the plan would prevent escapes and act as a deterrent, and said it was inspired by the Alligator Alcatraz detention facility in the Florida Everglades.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. It's talk radio you control. You can call and get your thoughts on the air. Phone number is 603-283-6160. Tonight, I would like to thank Dominic for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Dominic went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Thanks again to Dominic and everyone who supports us. Again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. In the studio tonight, it's Stu,
Radley O'Bell,
and Angelo.
Let's see, where were we before we talked to Sarah? Oh, we were going to read...
We're going to talk about blind vendors being targeted by the federal government.
Okay. This is,
Womp womp, Riley. No special privileges for you.
I know, right? Isn't that so terrible? I should be so offended. I don't get special privileges.
This decision coming from wife of WWE owner.
Yeah, Vince McMahon's wife, yeah.
Linda McMahon.
Shout out Linda.
The Department of the Army. Is that really a thing? The Department of the Army?
Yeah.
I guess so.
Oh, okay.
I think it's just like the Army.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like there's a department and it's the armies.
Plans to limit a long-standing preference the federal government has given to blind vendors, according to a notice scheduled to be published in the Federal Register this week.
This is an old story, so be ready.
Yep. This is from December 22nd, 2025.
Oh, that's not bad. That's only like a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's a couple weeks old, but I think it's still relevant.
Yeah, that's...
The notice states that Army dining halls will no longer give blind applicants the same priority after the Trump administration determined doing so adversely affects the interests of the United States.
What do you mean cooks who can't see? What? I could see that.
I could see it too, but here's the thing. Like, I understand the need for a blind person to be employed and things like that, but when you rely on the government for employment, you're going to rely on the whims of a politician, and when you rely on these programs to employ you, and the politicians are like, no, we don't need you anymore, yeah, it's going to create some outrage, and blind people are on social media going to have a hissy fit, but it's really not going to do anything. Why don't you go make yourself more employable and develop more skills, like learn how to make sourdough bread, or learn how to start a business, or something like that.
Yeah, agreed.
You don't need special privileges as a blind person, dude. Get over your stuff.
No, that'll just make you weaker anyways. Right now we're going to go to the phones. We've got on-screen wireless caller. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind? Hello? On-screen caller going once. Going twice. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Oh, I was just wondering how old you people are.
Which people?
You know, your whole crew. Well, actually, Bonnie and people that are on the radio. Right?
Ranging from 20 to 90.
Exactly.
Oh my God, are you kidding? On the radio right now speaking, there's a 90-year-old.
There might be. We don't know.
There might be.
I'm somewhere in my mid-40s. Why?
A 90-year-old perspective of life, you know. I mean, you guys are kids. You got a radio program. It's great, but
compared to some,
what you're saying, like, you know, you're on the edge. It's just weird. I've never heard you on my radio until tonight. Ever.
You've never heard someone on the radio what?
I've never heard you people on this radio station that I listen to all the time until tonight.
Which radio station are you on listening to?
It's like news radio in Jackson, Michigan.
Okay.
Cool. I'm glad you found us.
I'm glad we're out there.
Have you been on for a while?
Yeah, we've been. Our show has been on the air since 2002.
Mm-hmm.
2002. Well, I just started listening to this radio station about a year ago.
Okay.
Anyway, I was just wondering, you know, your perspective of it is very interesting, but it tells me that it's very immature, like very young people. But I'm an old guy, so.
When you say you're an old guy, how old are you talking?
Old enough to be smarter than younger people than me.
Well, that doesn't tell me anything.
Well, I don't know. Looks like he had left. I'm going to take that as a compliment anyway.
Yeah, what?
I mean,
because
I'll be 40 this year, and if he wants to call me young, fine, I'll take it.
Jesus said to be like the children. Anyways, right?
Exactly.
There's a certain quality that all of us could really, I think, gain from by observing and acting like children in some aspects.
Well, what do you mean, like a young perspective? Questioning the U.S. hegemony, like Pax Americana? How dare I question Pax Americana and the actions thereof? Right?
Yeah.
I thought I was a free man. That was like the idea of the piece of paper of the Constitution, right?
Yeah,
like, how dare I look at something from a different perspective?
I was hoping to ask him to expand on that, what he means by apparently young.
He's the same guy that sat there and did LSD in a field in the 60s and talked about how colors were emotions, man, and like, dude, if we just hugged each other, dude, it'd be like better. Like, what do you mean, like a young perspective?
Yeah. Okay, Boomer.
All right, dude. All right, Boomer.
Yep.
Okay, Boomer.
All right, back to the Huffington Post. And thanks for the compliment.
We'll take it.
I'm glad to not be thinking like some crusty old fart that He wants to kidnap people all thug style and in the middle of the night. Anyways, the decision was made by Trump's education secretary, Linda McMahon. I can't even, without laughing.
I mean, he is a billionaire. Vince
seriously.
McMahon is like a billionaire, so it makes sense.
Anyways, the decision was made by Linda McMahon, the former professional wrestling CEO, according to the notice. They even had to say it. The education department oversees what's known as the Randolph Shepherd Vending Facility Program, which was created during the Great Depression to help integrate blind workers into the U.S. workforce due to discrimination.
I mean, I'm sure at one point in U.S. history, and it may still happen today, that blind workers are discriminated against. But you're not going to end discrimination by employing them through the government. I mean, sure, it might create some good visibility, but you're still allowing the whim of a politician to say, oh, this blind person can be employed, this blind person can't be employed, or these people with certain disabilities have to be employed because they're in our program. So, to me, I see it as this is an opportunity for blind people to be like, well, the government's not going to employ us. Let's see what kind of skills we can develop so we're not sitting on our butts collecting Social Security checks.
Yeah, and I don't know if, I guess, but I think I want the guy making my sandwich in the pop-up kitchen to be able to see my sandwich. That's just a personal preference. Just because, sometimes chopped lettuce has something in there that you want to pick out. And if you don't see it, then it's going to be in your sandwich. So anyways, I don't know. There are plenty of things blind people can do. There are plenty of things I can't do, So you just got to find what you can do and do that and not, I don't know. It seems ridiculous to force people no, you have to buy food from this person because there's something different about them.
Right.
Well, I don't think is it buying food from them or is it employing them to work in the mess hall? Because it sounds like it's like a government contract with a hiring agency for blind people to put blind people in mess halls to work as a job, as a civilian contractor.
Oh yeah, okay. It's probably something like that. Yeah, I don't know. An education department spokesperson, Maddie Biederman, said in an emailed statement that McMahon had reviewed the Department of the Army's proposal and approved it. The Army reports significant price and efficiency issues due to the requirement, impacting military readiness and imposing undue burdens on the Army, Biederman said.
Which is entirely possible.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay. So they're saying it's costing extra money to have to do this anyways. The change at the Army appears to be part of the Trump administration's broader attack on government policies aimed at boosting underrepresented groups in the country's workforce. Advocacy groups representing workers with disabilities could end up suing in an attempt to stop it, arguing the change is unlawful. Huffington Post reported during the government shutdown that the education department planned to lay off a group of blind staffers who administer the Randolph Shepherd program within the federal government, putting its future in doubt. The layoffs were stopped, at least temporarily, due to the deal Democrats reached with Republicans to reopen the government. The notice states that the Department of Army currently has at least 23 dining facility contracts that were awarded through the program. There are more than 1,000 licensed blind vendors across the country, many of them helping provide concessions on military bases. Based on the Department of the Army's representations, it is clear that the Randolph Shepherd priority hinders the Department of the Army's ability to act swiftly, efficiently, and cost-effectively in procuring and managing dining contracts, which negatively impacts the availability and quality of food options for the nation's warfighters, it states. Although the notice alludes to some examples the department cast as wasteful. It does not mention any comprehensive analysis finding the preference for blind vendors has hurt the Army. So it sounds like they just said this is too expensive, but they didn't come up with any numbers.
It sounds like it.
Trump's Secretary of the Army, Daniel Driscoll, has criticized the program in the past. He appeared on a podcast in October and claimed the program was being abused and taken advantage of by people who don't actually have disabilities, forcing the Defense Department to pay more than necessary for chicken. It's been interpreted over the years to basically mean we have to prioritize blind people when we go out for our chicken contracts, Driscoll said. One education department employee previously told HuffPost that they were appalled by Driscoll's portrayal of the program as wasteful. The mentality of these people is if we have a disability and we have a job, we're taking it away from an able-bodied person, they said. And that's where the story ends.
It's just interesting to me that, I have seen the story take traction on social media among blind people that I know, and they're like, this is terrible. But people who say it's terrible aren't employed by the Army. They're not employed by the federal government, as far as I know. They're generally sitting at home collecting Social Security checks. So I don't see why they should be upset by this.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like, what do you don't even have a dog in the fight. You're just upset because it says blind in the title, so you're going to rage about it.
Yeah, you're raging on behalf of your community. Okay, fine. But, you're just making the blind population look like entitled brats.
Yep. That's, I fully agree with that. And
rather than people who are being like, oh, well, I'm going to change my position now. I'm going to do something entirely different. And if I fail, okay, at least I tried something.
And on top of that, I would say the other side is being ridiculous as well. Like, this is, they didn't even come up with numbers, for one.
Yeah.
And if they did, I bet it was like, in the 6-figure range that they're talking about losing, which is like, they can find that in the couch cushions for a military budget.
It's the government. They can find
True.
anything.
I bet it's not. If it's not like chicken for the entire military, I bet it's more than $600,000. I bet it's like...
But it's only... Right, so it's only, I bet it's only Yeah, like
0.5% of something.
Yeah, maybe 5% of all the chicken falls under these types of contracts or whatever anyway, so, you know what I mean? I bet it's really not that large an amount of goings on.
So it just sounds like something that, well, then it doesn't really matter if it gets cut. It doesn't really matter if it stays, right? Like, if it's really just 5% of all the chicken, then... Why wouldn't you just cut it out of the budget?
I mean, that's just a guess because they failed to
report any numbers. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like, why? Cutting government spending. Technically, I don't see why that's a negative thing. I see why, good. I guess shouldn't be overpaying for chicken
too. But we all know the government isn't going to cut spending; it's just going to spend on different things. They just want to make it look good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just putting lipstick on a pig.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is everybody's being a bunch of babies here.
I hear you.
I guess everybody by now in the entire country has heard about these fake daycare centers in Minnesota.
The Leering centers.
Yeah, the Leering centers in
the Leering centers,
Minnesota. I've heard about them. I don't know enough about the story to comment on it, honestly.
Well, Fox News has a thing here. Daycare center at the heart of Minnesota fraud investigation fixes sign after viral mockery.
But I guess it had been up that way for 8 years. It was a Leering center for 8 years.
And people didn't notice. It's funny.
Or they didn't, but suddenly as soon as it's caught on camera, they can fix it in 24 hours.
The Minneapolis area daycare, whose misspelled sign Quality Leering Center, went viral after being reported on by YouTube journalist Nick Shirley in his investigation into rampant fraud in Minnesota, has now corrected the infamous sign. Shirley and another man approached a building labeled the Quality Leering Center in Minneapolis, with Shirley noticing that learning was misspelled on the daycare's sign outside. The business appeared inactive during the visit, despite receiving state child care assistance funds. This led to allegations that the center is one of several participating in a widespread fraud scheme taking place in certain segments of Minnesota's Somali community. To many critics, the misspelled sign was an illustration of the fraud openly taking place in Minnesota. Among the center's critics was U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon, there she is again, who wrote on X that one fraudulent business in Minnesota that misspelled learning on its building received $1.9 million this year while masquerading as a daycare. That's kind of a lot of money for a daycare.
That is a lot of money. How much does a daycare typically need for funding, though?
Well, it depends on if the kids are actually there or not, Riley.
Yeah, I guess it would.
That's true.
You don't put any kids in there, you probably don't need a lot of money. You put in that you have 200 kids, you probably need maybe $1.9 million, but I doubt any of that's really spent on children.
Yeah. McMahon wrote, there are not enough words to describe the breathtaking failure that has happened under the watch of Governor Tim Walz. The center, however, has since pushed back on the allegation, saying it is innocent of any wrongdoing. Fox News photographed several individuals correcting the misspelled sign late on Monday night. Earlier on Monday, Ibrahim Ali, a man who identified himself as a manager at the Quality Learning Center, strongly denied any allegations of fraud at the facility. He told Fox News that the center is currently open and has never closed, contradicting statements made earlier today by officials with Department of Children, Youth, and Families that the center had closed earlier this month.
Have you seen the one where there was a break-in at one of these places just right after the video dropped? Somebody broke in and just happened to steal all of the enrollment records, all of the paper enrollment records for all of the hundreds of kids.
Stole all the proof that there were actually kids
there.
there.
Just somebody happened to break in and if you look at the pictures, you can see the saw cuts are coming from the inside of the building. Not the outside. So they just went in there with a sawzall and faked a cutout, taking CIA cutout to a whole new level.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, ridiculous. Ollie also accused Shirley of visiting the facility before operating hours, which he says run from 2 to 10 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Thursday. That's weird hours for a daycare.
I know.
He criticized Shirley, saying, "Are you trying to record that we're doing fraud, or are you trying to put the Somali name and the fraud in the same sentence? That's what's really hurt us the last couple of days." The manager blamed the misspelling on the individual who installed it, saying, "We mess up the sign. We pay somebody to do our sign. He incorrectly did it. We're having him work on it. We paid him to correct the sign. He said it'll be done by this week, so by the end of this week, our sign will be fine." The Quality Learning Center also recently made news for collecting 95 violations from the State Human Services Agency between 2019 and 2023, according to St. Paul ABC affiliate.
This is a clown world, dude. What are we doing? All right, so look, the Somalian people, the average IQ is 65, 70 in Somalia or something. They didn't come up with this on their own. Somebody showed them how to do this and then just looked the other way.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know the average IQ in Somalia is 65 to 70?
I don't know the numbers. That's what the thing says.
This is what
the
I've
map
heard also.
Okay.
I guess there's a lot of inbreeding, poor nutrition. There's serious problems in Somalia.
You should look at where these places are donating. I bet a bunch of it's just going back into the DNC. I bet it's a money laundering scheme. And then how much money they said they found that went back to Hezbollah or Hezbollah adjacent Al-Shabaab, something like Al-Shabaab got millions of dollars through this fraud scheme. Millions of dollars have come from Minnesota taxpayers to terrorists in Somalia. They've been able to trace it.
Well, that makes sense. That would be a good way for CIA to get money to a group they're absolutely not supposed to fund.
Do you know about
what they call plausible deniability?
Do you know about Somaliland, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So in Somaliland, the idea is that they're gonna build Tel Aviv's gonna go in there and they're gonna build a base and they're gonna move all of the Palestinians into Somaliland And maybe some of this Minnesota money is kind of working like an Iran-Contra scheme that's going back to Somalia to pay off these warlords in order to let this kind of thing happen. We're paying them off to take in the Palestinians because the Israelis want to get rid of them.
They're building the Israelis are building
a base in Somaliland.
Camps to send off the undesirables to?
Yep, in Somaliland. And maybe this is the money going back to Somalia is to pay off the local warlords.
Interesting.
This is completely tin hat. I don't have
Trailer
anything
Park
to say.
Boys would say, "Oh, how the turntables."
But I'm just saying, it could be like an Iran-Contra thing almost, where we're going to give money and weapons to these groups to look the other way while we use this split country to get rid of, our hostages.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems perfectly plausible. The article continues, such violations range from failure to keep hazardous items away from kids to the daycare not having any records for more than a dozen listed children, according to the outlet. Documentation reviewed by Fox News Digital showed the site's current license does not expire until the end of 2026. That's where the article ends.
I mean, I don't know exactly what's going on with this daycare system. I'm sure there's probably fraud going on, but I don't know enough about it to comment on it. What I will say is if there's fraud going on, then yeah, we should hold them accountable. We should revoke their licenses and get them out of the country or whatever it takes to stop people from defrauding the system.
Well, but the issue is that it's not the Somalis. Like they're going along with it, but it's almost like they're being used as a tool against the American people, right?
Yeah.
This is
a patsy or a scapegoat.
Yes, they're a scapegoat.
Okay,
they're being used as a
scapegoat. It sounds like you're saying the Somalis are being used as a scapegoat instead of the real perpetrators.
Yes, the people like Tim Walz who allowed this kind of stuff to happen. Right? Like, we're not going to hold anybody accountable, right? The right gets to parade around and be like, look at these dumb black people we gave them all this money. And Tim Walz isn't going to get in trouble. And the left gets to scream about racism, right? And they're just the scapegoat. The Somalians are just the scapegoat.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yep, whatever divides us further works out for them. Give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. Let us know what's on your mind tonight. This is Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
The vast majority of the, quote unquote terrorists that are acting supposedly in the name of Islam, those people are not actually Muslims. They are nominally Muslim in the same way that a large percentage of Americans, when asked on a questionnaire, will say, yeah, I'm a Christian.
Right.
But they couldn't necessarily tell you all of the tenets of the faith. Most of the people in the U.S. military claim to be Christian, and they're killing people overseas. Not in the name of Christianity, but in the name of America, because God is on our side. So, you do have, to some extent, Christians killing people.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern at freetalklive.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Tony Waterman. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. He issued the warning in an early morning post to social media, saying the U.S. will come to the rescue of peaceful protesters. Mass demonstrations erupted a week ago in major cities like Tehran, but have since spread to smaller towns as citizens vent their frustration over the worsening economy. At least 6 people have been killed and 17 wounded. It's the biggest threat to Iran's government since 2022, when protests erupted over the death of a young woman who was arrested for allegedly not wearing her hijab correctly. In response to Trump's latest threat, Iran says it will not allow foreign interference in the country. Tensions between Tehran and Washington have intensified in recent weeks. Just on Monday, Trump said he'd order more strikes on Iran if it tries to rebuild its nuclear capabilities after the U.S. destroyed some sites in June. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles held too closely to the ceiling are to blame for the blaze. At least 40 people were killed and more than 100 others were injured, the majority of whom are in intensive care. France is among several European nations treating some of the victims. FSN's Ross Cullen reports.
People who suffered burns in the fatal fire are being looked after in hospitals in Paris and in Lyon, where France's top plastic surgeons are on standby to assist with specialist reconstructive care for burns victims. French citizens were among those injured, and there are still French nationals missing, with several Italians also unaccounted for. Police are working to identify all the victims and investigate how the fire started. It broke out in the Constellation Bar in the Swiss ski resort of Crans-Montana in the early hours of New Year's Day.
Senior Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed building a new high-security prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. FSN's Blake Sifton reports from Tel Aviv.
A delegation led by the Deputy Commissioner of Israel's Prison Service visited a crocodile farm on Thursday to learn about crocodile care and handling. Last week, far-right National Security Minister Ben-Gvir proposed building a new detention facility surrounded by crocodiles to hold Palestinian prisoners jailed for security offenses. He suggested the plan would prevent escapes and act as a deterrent, and said it was inspired by the Alligator Alcatraz detention facility in the Florida Everglades.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today in more detail at the very welcome development that wild salmon have been seen for the first time since 2015 in 3 English rivers, the Mersey, the Bollin and the Goyt, returning to those waters in Britain's gritty northwest, meaning they have made it all the way from the Arctic Circle to spawn in the river's gravel beds. The actor James Murray is the deputy chair of River Action and has campaigned for British rivers and wild salmon specifically.
What it says to me is there is hope. If you clean up these rivers, if you let them return to levels of health that they should be, then the salmon will return. They're a very resilient canary in the coal mine keynote species that will show you that your rivers are in good health by living there. And we need it not just to be a local good news story, it needs to be a national good news story. This species is endangered. It was on the red list from 2023. We need to take it off the red list and make it abundant again in its returning numbers, as it was pre-industrial revolution and as it could be again, as these rivers in the northwest have shown us.
Sir David Attenborough has long argued that waterways and oceans can return to life in a short space of time, given focus and environmental commitment. And in the northwest of England at least, the salmon are bearing that out.
And a recap of today's headlines. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles are to blame for the blaze. Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed a new prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. That's Feature Story News. Tony Waterman reporting.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish a TV show where I travel across this great nation eating pork in every one of our 50 states. Join me on my cross-country odyssey as I make our forefathers proud, reveling in life, liberty, and the pursuit of pork.
You really taste the cooked pork. This stuff is fantastic. I'm a big salt fan.
Let's pork! We're tasting prime pork dishes in every state in the union, and I couldn't be more excited for this once-in-a-lifetime tour. You're going to be right here with me, seeing everything I do and watching every pork I taste. I'm Jim Haggerty. You know me as the host of Today Now, but I've also eaten in a ton of restaurants. Now I'm heading out on the road. My mission? Find the best pork our country has to offer.
Watch Jim Haggerty's Porkin' Across America at youtube.com/theonion.
This is the Onion News Network.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, talk radio you control. You can give us a call and let us know what's on your mind tonight. The phone number is 603-283-6160. And in the studio tonight, it's Stu,
Riley O'Bill,
and Angelo.
So, what were we just talking about?
I don't know, man. What were we talking about?
I don't know. We must have finished up what we were talking about.
Oh, Somalia. We're talking about Somali fraud.
The supposed Somalian fraud.
The Leering Center and all that. So this is it's a very polarizing subject, which is why it's gotten so popular. On the one hand, you have people upset about the fraud aspect of it. You have the xenophobic aspect to it, where people are like,
those Somalians are really evil.
Yeah, it's the other thing. And I don't know. People always get so upset when tax money is fraudulently taken. And to me, I don't know. That's a thank you for your service kind of thing. That's already plunder. They're already going to steal as much from you as they can without having you riot in the streets. And so if anybody who can deprive them of that, anybody who can deprive the thief of some of that wealth, I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, well, I think it's just an extra slap in the face, right? Because then these people turn around, they've been robbed so much, right? And then they don't have anything to show for it. But then all of these people have free stuff, but they can't get, like a broken arm fixed or, school at a decent price or anything of that nature. So I can see why people get so upset about it.
Absolutely. But
you make a good point, Angelo. I can see how people would be upset over the people defrauding the system. Like they're quote unquote tax paying citizens, and all these people are getting money for free, and how dare they? Well, maybe you should work a little harder and get your money back out of the government.
Well, they should just vote harder next time.
Exactly.
And throw the bums out and vote in the ones that are going to do the right things with the plunder, right? And then everything will be okay again.
Well, that's how they always frame it.
Yeah, except it doesn't work that way. I guess now there's a whole bunch of like right-winger types talking about not paying their taxes now.
I think there's like a tax revolt.
That's the way you go right there. Do that. Do that, everyone.
Don't pay taxes. That's the best form of protest.
Yeah, I think if this is the straw to break the camel's back and actually push the right wing into not paying taxes, then I'm all for it. Yeah, dude, go for it, dude. Don't pay taxes. Don't do any of that. Cut off the flow. Keep your money.
Yeah, if this causes that, I'll give them a round of applause.
Well, I mean, look at what like how Trump is just like, just stabbed his entire base in the back over the past, 8 months.
It's been
And then just to add to this, right? I can see why they're like, yeah, we're done. We're out.
Yeah. Yep. And good on anybody who decides to quit getting jerked around, because that's what's going on, and it's not going to stop until you stand up and stop it. Anyways, what do you guys want to talk about next?
Well, we've hit a lot of the big stuff this week.
We have. We've hit all the important stories. I think the big topic we could talk about is that, Christmas and holiday seasons have come and gone. Did you guys spend any time with your families? Did you do anything exciting? I mean, it's mundane topic time, I guess.
We did in our house, we did the normal Christmas thing with just our immediate family, and we had a nice time. We didn't do anything for New Year's. We just went to bed at the normal time and
then woke up and it was a different number on the calendar.
Yeah, and I went to work and,
Nothing changes.
Nothing changes. I don't know.
I actually went back to Utah for a couple weeks and spent time with family, so it was just really, really nice to have their traditional Christmas things and spend time with family.
Yeah, did you get to see all the cousins? It was like a big Christmas. How big are your Christmases? Do you guys all go to a lodge where there's 40 people and you guys have a huge, gigantic,
not really,
Lampoon Christmas on steroids?
No, not really. My family's a little different, I guess. We don't get every single person together. For my mom's side of the family, we got together with my uncle and his wife, my aunt, and some of their kids. And it was just this nice, maybe 20, 30 people at that gathering.
Yeah, see, that's a huge Christmas, dude. I think one of the last Christmases I had with my family back home, I think there's 3 or 4 people at it, at the most. Yeah, dude.
That's wow.
Yeah, that's a huge family gathering. I can't remember the last time when I was a kid. My great grandpa would put on these huge get-togethers. Right at his house, he'd have his 3 sons, his 2 sons, and then my grandma, and then all of their kids and their wives, and then some of their kids' kids. And we'd all pitch tents in his backyard, and there was 20, 30 people at those, but nothing like that's happened since 2006.
Wow.
7. Yeah. So I think that's a big Christmas. That's good, Riley. I'm kind of jealous of you, dude. I would like a big Christmas again, but.
Well, if you want to, we can have you come.
No, it's all good. It's all good. You can have your Christmas, but I'm just saying, you should really, not a lot of people have that kind of big Christmas anymore. So
it's really amazing that we can get pretty much all my siblings together and not really fight.
Yeah, for at least enough time, somebody's gonna blow up, right? Because that's just how it goes.
Oh yeah,
somebody's gonna get to the.
Families are just used to triggering each other, and
yeah, they live for it. And then it reminds you why you don't want to do it for another year, right? And maybe even bi-yearly. But I think it's good to kind of come in and check in. Maybe don't rely on them so much, but those are the people that you grew up around you and they know you.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying you have to go deal with abusive people, right? That's not what I'm advocating for. But if you have a good family and you like your family, I think you should spend time with them.
I definitely have a good family. My mom, my dad, they're all good people. My dad and I were arguing about New Hampshire independence. He's against it, of course. Says it's not going to work, and the federal government and God is going to have the final veto if New Hampshire decides to secede. So. Oh,
so he's saying God's going to smite New Hampshire if they leave?
Yeah.
Man.
I know, right?
Mormon space wives. Wow.
It's just so interesting the claims people make that New Hampshire tries to leave the United States, the most corrupt, one of the biggest corrupt terrorist organization on the earth, that God's going to smite us. What a silly thought.
That kind of reminds me. I was thinking about this thing. I don't know if I should even mention the caller because he'll probably call us, but Skeeter talks about secession as an act of theft against the collective, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't so. I just wonder, along those lines of thought, isn't the American Revolution theft from the king, and therefore doesn't all of this still belong to Britain?
Well, if we're going to operate under that logic, then yes, it does.
Then then isn't Britain technically owned by the Normans? So it's technically all France's?
Probably.
And then isn't France technically owned by the Romans? So isn't it technically all Italy's?
Rome's, I guess.
Yeah, Rome's, wherever.
Yeah, I guess the heart of Rome is in Italy.
Yeah, right. So wouldn't that technically go to the Italians at that point? So the Italians actually own all of Europe and all of the United States.
The whole world, actually. Right.
Well, most of Europe. I don't think they made it all the way to through Persia. You still have the Arab states.
Yeah, okay. They didn't conquer the full East. Yeah, okay. So I guess, yeah.
But then before the Romans, wasn't it the Persians or the Mycenaeans, right? So is it the Greeks? Or is it then actually maybe Iraq does own the whole world? Maybe maybe the Shah is the de facto leader of the world.
Maybe so.
If you really want to go back, who really controlled what, when, where? The first people? Maybe it's Africa, actually. If we want to go with the first peoples.
Uh-huh.
If that's where we want to claim it started.
Or maybe maybe Antarctica is really the lost continent of Atlantis. And that's where the center of power is that owns everything. And they just have us all divided up, so we all think we're
hidden behind the ice wall.
And free. Yeah, hidden behind the ice wall.
Well, I just think that's just where it gets to ridiculous.
I agree. It gets definitely ridiculous, and maybe if Christianity is right, Jesus will come back and set us all straight.
Who knows, man? Yeah. I think it's things are definitely getting weirder by the day. I don't see things getting less weird. I see things getting crazier and crazier, like black bagging South American presidents in the middle of the night and doing backdoor deals with Somalian warlords and wars in the East, wars in the West, wars in the South, wars in the North. It just feels like war is on the horizon for the people of this, at least the first world.
I've heard it said that when all else fails, they take you to war, and we're going to war, it looks like.
Yeah, because we got to kick the can down the road. The U.S. dollar. I mean, we've just printed so much. We cannot sustain us. We can't sustain ourselves unless we go to war. It just won't work. We have to. That's the way we're going to get an influx of cash and resources. Is we're going to have to burn it all down and then make money when we rebuild everything again.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, there are a few possible other ways that it could work, but historically.
Well, where they maintain their power.
That's the only way it's going to work, because that's the only way the bankers are going to allow it. Because for some reason, the top bankers love wars. They're the ones who always start them, and they're the ones who always make the most money off them.
You gotta think they love them so much because it doesn't matter who wins the war. I'm going to get paid my money back. So if I sell guns to both of these people and let them kill each other, I'm going to make money regardless. So it's advantageous for you to get these people, these powers. You get these, that's why they did it in World War I, these monarchical powers to really fall on their own sword with debt and wipe themselves out through war. So now you can kind of install yourself as the hegemony.
Yeah. And that was more about gaining control over the monarchs than it was about making a lot of money, because once you're a country beholden to a bank, then they kind of get to dictate your policy.
Well, what the kings started to do was they'd rack up all this debt and then just kick them out of the country and go, yeah, we're not going to pay you, never mind. So it was like you wouldn't get a lot of loans if you did that, but sometimes kings would just kick out the bankers. Right, and they had to figure out a way to not have that happen again.
But then those bankers would just go to the next door neighbor country and fund them to come over and cause serious problems.
Yeah.
And that's the way that goes. So, anyways, bit of abstraction.
It's just interesting to me that we live in a world where everything has gone insane, and peoples before us have probably felt the same way when their world began to change rapidly too. So it's just interesting to me that living in our times that we've experienced exactly what others have experienced before us. And how did they navigate it? Well, their civilization collapsed at some point. Wonder when ours is.
Yeah, and it's got to reach peak crazy at some point, to where it starts getting less crazy.
Well, you got to think everybody gets so riled up about it because like we can see it with our cell phones or like newspapers and stuff.
Yeah.
But really, during the fall of Rome, or like let's say like Western Rome or whatever, did like the average French farmer know what was going on, or was he just farming?
Probably.
I imagine.
farming.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of like we've been so wrapped up in it, man. If we're like out in our garden and like doing stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm saying touch grass, but it just seems like at the end of the day, we're all kind of ruled, and these rulers are gonna fight. Why I think taking a personal like investment into it so much is almost damaging because like this is inevitable, right?
Yeah.
So like, why don't you just go garden?
Yeah, I agree. Do the things that are important to you, and don't worry so much about all this, about all the crazy stuff, because you giving your attention to it adds power to it. If you just give your attention to the things that are important to you, then those are the things you'll see flourish.
Yeah, we can watch on our phones or listen to on our phones people dying a half world away and be detached from it.
Or upset about it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be upset about like innocent life, like innocent blood being shed.
Sure.
But you can't let it consume you to the point where like your life takes a hit from it, right? Like, don't let one life lost turn into two lives lost.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Don't
if
lose
that
your
makes any
mind over
sense.
someone dying half a world away just because you feel bad for them. And yeah, sure, feel bad for them. Maybe do some activism in your community. I don't know, but at the same time, you can't just put your life on hold because people are dying around the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, I feel like a lot of people are dooming, right? There's a lot of doom, a lot of blackpilling going on. It feels like around like the internet and stuff. Like a lot of people are just like, dude, it's over. It's so over. We're cooked. What do we do? And it's just I think what you can do is what you can do, right? You do what you can. And you try to put your best foot forward. And I think things do feel really heavy right now, but, I guess, yeah, focusing on putting yourself in the right direction is the only thing you can do, right? You can only control yourself, not anything outside. I don't know. What do you think?
I think focusing on what you can control is the best option, because if you focus on what you can control and the only thing you can control is your breath, then by all means breathe. Then start making a small list of things you can do to improve your life every day, like stand up straight with your shoulders back or something. Clean your room.
Clean your room.
Like Jordan Peterson would say.
Yeah, I guess.
I've been reading a lot of Jordan Peterson lately.
Yeah, he's some of his early stuff was good.
Yeah, pre-Benzo was good. I don't know where he's at
I think anything that encourages aimless young men to take better care of themselves is a positive to an extent.
Definitely.
Like people hate Andrew Tate, and I also have issues with him. But I can also, I think, leading them astray. But I mean, who else? Nobody else is talking to him, right? That's why they're gravitating to him, because nobody else has reached out like with a hand to disadvantaged young men, or like whatever they call the incel community. Nobody else is like talking to them, so they're going to attach to the person who talks to them.
Oh yeah,
even if it is like this, toxic. Which I would say he is toxic masculinity. He went and just got beat up by a gay guy. Yeah. Pretty badly on national television, and then blamed his supporters for him losing or something. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
That's not very manly.
No, it's not.
But he filled that niche because everybody else had ignored them. I don't know. I guess what Gandhi say? Be the change you wish to see in the world. Like if you want to see positivity, you got to be positivity.
I think that's the thing. Is a lot of men today don't have something to initiate them into society and make them more manly. I mean, back in my parents' day, there was at least the Boy Scouts.
Yep, rite of passage is a thing severely lacking in this society. Rite of passage gave young people the feeling like it was time for them to
buckle down.
Well, to take on responsibility.
Yeah, that's kind of
Quit asking for help all the time, and since that time never comes, humans just, go cradle to grave asking for help the whole way through.
I know within my religious upbringing, there were some rites of passages for men to go through, and eventually women as well. So, you know, I've gone through some of those things, and those have been helpful, but at the same time, it's just nice to have a man like Jordan Peterson be like, hey, stand up the tree with your shoulders back, get your room clean. You know,
well, you wouldn't need it. You guys would, okay. All right. This is kind of a boomer con, like maybe like a Con Inc. take. But you wouldn't need people like Jordan Peterson or Andrew Tate. These figures wouldn't even really be needed if there were dads being dads.
I agree.
I don't know. I just feel like a lack of fathers. Like, so like I was just lucky my great grandpa took on that role, right? Because I have a deadbeat dad.
Yeah.
But he, you know, there were rites of passage. I had my first beer, right, with my great grandpa in the woods, cutting trees with like chainsaws and stuff at like 13, 14 or something, you know. So that's like, you know, he built those rites of passages into like, as he raised me. But if there's no father around to do that, to even cultivate that kind of thinking into a young man, then people like Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate will fill that void. That should have been like the family's job.
Yeah.
And we just eradicated or de-incentivized family for some reason. I don't know if that's like for control because they want everybody like the nanny state to.
Well, if
the
you don't have a
infantilization
family to centralize society around, it makes it easy to control people because they're all divided against each other. And when people are divided against each other, they're easier to conquer.
Yeah, loyal to nothing except themselves.
Exactly. And people have become so self-centered today. It's like, I only live for myself. I don't care about my family. It's insane.
Well,
I mean, you can choose your family, sure, but at the same time, it's just nice to have siblings.
Yeah, they've been screaming about the attack on family for a long time, and it's kind of like I'm reminded of Sarah's Colin talking about communism. There was the whole McCarthyism and the Red Scare thing, which had a dual purpose, right? It stirred people into a frenzy and made them panicky, which is useful for societal controllers. But it also made it, same thing with satanic panic and all that, right? It took a real thing that you should be mindful of and not allow to creep into your into your bureaucratic systems, being communism, right? And it showed you how they were making a mountain out of a molehill, so suddenly everybody's like, oh yeah, you're worried about communists hiding in the bushes or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
But they were.
And they downplayed it to the point where it became a non-thing. Same thing with the satanic panic. They really are like Satanists in high levels of control doing terrible things, but they run this whole satanic panic thing and everybody comes away going, oh, that was just people panicking about
just
a nothing burger. That's right. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, then, so what's the angle with the family thing? Then, where does that?
Oh, so people have been like, oh, there's an attack on the family, and that gets ridiculed. But all the while, they're absolutely trying to destroy the natural order of the family.
Yeah.
Give us a call. Do you agree, or am I off base with that? The phone number here is 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Tony Waterman. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. He issued the warning in an early morning post to social media, saying the U.S. will come to the rescue of peaceful protesters. Mass demonstrations erupted a week ago in major cities like Tehran, but have since spread to smaller towns as citizens vent their frustration over the worsening economy. At least 6 people have been killed and 17 wounded. It's the biggest threat to Iran's government since 2022, when protests erupted over the death of a young woman who was arrested for allegedly not wearing her hijab correctly. In response to Trump's latest threat, Iran says it will not allow foreign interference in the country. Tensions between Tehran and Washington have intensified in recent weeks. Just on Monday, Trump said he'd order more strikes on Iran if it tries to rebuild its nuclear capabilities after the U.S. destroyed some sites in June. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles held too closely to the ceiling are to blame for the blaze. At least 40 people were killed and more than 100 others were injured, the majority of whom are in intensive care. France is among several European nations treating some of the victims. FSN's Ross Cullen reports.
People who suffered burns in the fatal fire are being looked after in hospitals in Paris and in Lyon, where France's top plastic surgeons are on standby to assist with specialist reconstructive care for burns victims. French citizens were among those injured, and there are still French nationals missing, with several Italians also unaccounted for. Police are working to identify all the victims and investigate how the fire started. It broke out in the Constellation Bar in the Swiss ski resort of Crans-Montana in the early hours of New Year's Day.
Senior Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed building a new high-security prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. FSN's Blake Sifton reports from Tel Aviv.
A delegation led by the Deputy Commissioner of Israel's Prison Service visited a crocodile farm on Thursday to learn about crocodile care and handling. Last week, far-right National Security Minister Ben-Gvir proposed building a new detention facility surrounded by crocodiles to hold Palestinian prisoners jailed for security offenses. He suggested the plan would prevent escapes and act as a deterrent, and said it was inspired by the Alligator Alcatraz detention facility in the Florida Everglades.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, talk radio you control. You can get your voice on the air with us in this final segment of our Saturday show. If you call 603-283-6160, you can talk about pretty much whatever you want, provided you don't use any of the words that the bureaucrats get mad about.
Or the words that George Carlin would use.
Yep. George Carlin. Man, the world needs that guy now. In the studio tonight, it's Stu,
Riley O'Bill,
and Angelo.
I've got a story here we can get into. I found this on Activist Post. It sounds like it comes from Bitcoin Magazine, written by Micah Zimmerman. Former exchange employee sentenced to 4 years for selling military secrets to North Korea for Bitcoin.
Nice.
A Korean crypto employee was jailed after taking Bitcoin to recruit an officer to North Korea. A South Korean crypto exchange employee was sentenced to 4 years in prison for attempting to recruit a military officer to sell
4 or 40?
4 years.
4, okay.
4 years for selling state secrets.
That's it? That feels like an executable offense.
Korea must be pretty
lenient.
light.
I feel like North Korea would not have dealt with that the same way.
That's a very lenient sentence for a state secret.
Or the U.S. You probably would have been like Guantanamo Bay'd.
Yeah, I mean, Ian Freeman got a less lenient sentence than that. And
yeah, he got double the years.
I know.
Just for
not selling state secrets?
Yeah. For him, for not scamming anyone. For being a middleman in a scam that, in my opinion, they probably set up in the first place. A South Korean crypto exchange 4 years in prison for attempting to recruit a military officer to sell classified secrets to North Korea in exchange for Bitcoin, the Supreme Court ruled on December 28th. The ruling also imposes a 4-year ban on the employee from financial sector activities. Only 4 years? In the U.S., certainly, they'd be like, you can never touch crypto ever again, or anything financial related. Court documents revealed that North Korean hackers paid the exchange staffer $487,000 in Bitcoin to recruit a 30-year-old Army captain who received $33,500 in Bitcoin in return, according to the South Korean media outlet Dailane. The staffer approached the officer through a Telegram chat offering cryptocurrency for access to sensitive military data. The staffer sent a watch-shaped hidden camera and a USB hacking device to the captain under hacker instructions. These devices were intended to capture and transmit information from the Korean Joint Command and Control System, a platform used to share intelligence between the U.S. and South Korea. Military police intercepted the devices before any breach occurred. The defendant must have been aware that he was attempting to uncover military secrets for a country hostile to South Korea, the judge said. This crime could have endangered the entire country and was committed for personal financial gain. The captain, surnamed Kim, was sentenced to 10 years in prison and fined $35,000 for violating the Military Secrets Protection Act.
Oh, okay. So the military guy got 10 years at least. I figured he would have gotten... Maybe he would have been executed. He was like in the military. Isn't treason like punishable by death or something? Or is that just here?
And it also sounds like they fined him $1,500 more than he took for his
in the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I wonder if they seized that and then fined him another.
Yeah, probably
35 on top of that.
The U.S. Treasury Department on November 4th sanctioned 8 individuals and 2 entities linked to North Korea's cybercrime operations targeting the flow of cryptocurrency stolen by DPRK hackers. Over the past 3 years, North Korea-affiliated cybercriminals have stolen more than $3 billion, primarily in digital assets, using malware, ransomware, and social engineering to attack banks, exchanges, and other platforms. The Treasury said the funds help finance Pyongyang's nuclear weapons and missile programs. Now, I'm sure they did say that. Among those sanctioned were bankers Jang Kuk-chol and Ho Jong-son, who managed over $5.3 million in cryptocurrency tied to ransomware attacks and DPRK IT workers abroad. Korea... that's a weird word. Mangyeongdae Computer Technology Corp, which runs overseas IT delegations, and its president, Yu Yong-soo, were also targeted alongside Ryujong Credit Bank in Pyongyang and 5 DPRK banking representatives in China and Russia for laundering millions in global currencies. In September 2024, the FBI issued a warning that North Korea hackers were targeting U.S. cryptocurrency exchange-traded funds, ETFs, in an attempt to steal digital assets. According to the agency, the attackers are employing sophisticated social engineering techniques to infiltrate companies linked to these financial products.
What does that mean? Like honeypots? Like what is that? Social engineering? Are they getting like? Is it email phishing? What does this mean?
Yeah, it's probably a range of things. Well, they have SIM hacking is a thing where they find out just enough information to trick the phone company into giving up the
oh yeah, I've heard of that,
controls to your SIM, or like resetting it to a new SIM card or whatever. There are sophisticated social engineering techniques that you could use. It's interesting though. I wonder, like, information is so controlled about what happens inside of North Korea that they could say anything they want is going on there, and we can just be left to believe it. Because you can't prove or disprove any of that. It's like them talking about what happens on the moon. Good luck going there to find out.
Yeah.
For all I know, everybody in North Korea is completely computer illiterate, stuck in the 1950s, and doesn't know anything about cryptocurrency. I doubt that's the case, but it might be, and you'd never know the difference. And it might just be like FBI spooks setting up this whole thing and being like, "Oh no, it's North Korea," in order to have a justification to pick a fight with North Korea. That's the way they do things.
Well, didn't the U.S. just seize like a ridiculous amount of crypto, like something in the billions of dollars range from like a bunch of South Asian companies?
Singapore, I think that was.
Was it Singapore? Yeah, some like front companies.
Yeah, doing the same kind of,
stuff,
scammy internet stuff to trick people out of their Bitcoin. Yeah, it seems like one of their favorite things to go after. I wonder why.
Well, because then they can just do whatever they want with it. That's one of the beautiful things about Bitcoin.
That's true. If they steal it, they get added to their sovereign wealth fund.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Well, if they can steal it, then they don't have to, buy it from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can't have the federal government buying Bitcoin. We got to go steal it and then add it to our wealth fund.
Yeah, I wonder who's in charge of deciding when to sell those assets and when to hold them, or like, I guess they haven't started buying more for a strategic reserve, but at some point you would imagine they're going to buy Bitcoin and put it in their strategic reserve. I wonder who decides. Would that be the Fed that decides, or
would it be the Department of the Treasury? Maybe
I would think it'd be the Department of the Treasury.
Don't they just listen to the Fed though?
Yeah, I guess. Like
I heard an interesting thing that I haven't been able to look into yet, though. I heard the Bank of London guys, they refer to the U.S. Federal Reserve as the Exchequer, and that there's actually this notion that the U.S. Federal Reserve is wholly owned actually by the British.
Interesting.
Which is interesting.
Well, I think Wall Street too is also one of those same kind of places.
Yeah, I'm kind of under the impression America never got its independence from Britain anyways. After having looked at the War of 1812, because the way that ended, they say it was a draw, but but if you look at the results, right, the U.S. Capitol was burnt down, and they lost all their documentation, and they ended up with a new central bank at the end of that. And then Britain was like, okay, we'll leave you alone now. So,
yeah, actually, I didn't know that. You're blowing my mind right now. So this isn't even like, this goes deeper than like the Rockefellers and Tavistock and stuff, and like the 1890s to 19 teens.
Back to the 1700s even.
Like it's just like a continuation of the British East India Company.
Yeah, kind of. Where they sort of just kind of Jones plantation the rules around.
Interesting. That's an interesting take.
Make people think they're free.
Huh.
We're gonna go to the phones right now. We've got Uber George is calling. Uber George, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I was calling because I was curious if either one of you ever been in an accident where it was the other guy's fault, and I was curious how much of a payout you guys got.
I got T-boned in Washington, and I had a school resource officer show up, say you were obviously in your lane, like you obviously had like you were clearly established in your lane, so it's her fault. And then the lady drove away, and the cop didn't cite her, and then my insurance company found her at fault, but then she didn't own the car, so I got no money out of it.
Oh man, that sucks. Yeah, because it's like just over 3 weeks ago, on New Year's Eve, I got rear-ended by this 95-year-old guy right there. Popped out part of my back bumper and gave me a whiplash. And ever since that, I've been seeing all these ads on like Instagram, Facebook, whatever. That like you're gonna get a whole bunch of money up to $100,000 and all this stuff like that. Just fill out this questionnaire and see how much you can get. It's like a whole real life version of a Better Call Saul, essentially. Mm-hmm. And I was just like wondering, if either one of you ever gotten paid out, but apparently I guess you got messed over on that one. But in this case, though, I got the guy's insurance and stuff, so I don't think there's going to be any denial of fault because he hit me rear-ended. It's always when you rear-end someone, it's always your fault. If you get rear-ended, it's always the other guy's fault.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well,
I was just wondering.
I did have one car pull out in front of me one time, so I ended up T-boning them, but it was their fault, if that makes any sense, because they just whipped right out into traffic. There was nothing I could do. There was no way I was stopping. I was driving an older truck, and it totaled the cost of the vehicle, so I got paid, I don't know, $2,500 or something. It ended up working out pretty good because that truck was a piece of junk.
Yeah, because I'm looking here at Grok right now, and it's saying because I got a bit of whiplash. It's like, come and pay us for minor whiplash claims could be between $8,000 and $24,000. Like, really? Wow, I never know it would be that much.
Yeah. Well, for me, and this isn't advice, it's just what I would do. I would not use those vultures that advertise because they creep me right out. Those guys are scummy. But I would call the insurance company. I'd get myself nice and testosteroned up first, and then I'd call them with my bully attitude on, and I would tell them that they're going to pay me some money or they're going to get wrapped up in litigation, and I would have it figured out in my mind. I'd do a little internet research, kind of like what you're doing now, finding out how much other people got paid for their whiplash, and I would tell them, you can just pay me this now, and we can keep it out of the courts, or we can get messy with it. And if you treat them firmly, they usually respond, and you get what you want out of them. But they will try. They will try to give you nothing, but you gotta be firm with them.
Oh yeah, no joke on that one. But yeah, in this case, like I said, I just got in the car. I changed the car since I last called you guys, and literally within 19 days of buying it, I get rear-ended right there. I was just like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
Oh, no. That's awful.
I mean, it's not brand spanking new, but, I don't buy
new to you
anymore.
Yeah,
it's new to me, yeah. And when this car was new, the sticker on it was over $43,000. I got it for $14,500, by the way.
That's not bad. How many miles on it?
About 80,000 miles, but it's a plug-in hybrid. I think that's the real reason why I got it so cheap, because this thing's it's a Fusion Energy, and these things got like almost no trunk space. It's like half the trunk is battery. That's probably the real cause of the depreciation. But it was never in the wreck until on New Year's, so I should get some also a payout more for depreciation, because when your car gets hit like that, it loses value, And
yeah,
I'm curious if anyone could call in and say how much extra someone gets for the loss of value because the car has been in a wreck. Well, I wouldn't say wreck, but a fender bender.
Well, usually the way the insurance company looks at that is how much would it cost to repair it back to as good as it was before you got rear-ended, and that's how much they'll give you.
No, if you could tie in like loss of wages, if that, like, because you Uber or something and it took your car out of spec for your Uber, then you'd have to sue somebody. You'd probably have to sue the old guy, I think. I don't know, but that just sounds like you'd probably have to go after him personally or something for like your lost wages or something.
I don't want to do that. Because,
I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to do that to a 95-year-old man either.
Yeah, 95-year-old guy.
Yeah, I would just let him be 95 and go die. And you know what? Sometimes bad things happen.
Oh man, that is harsh, but that's very true.
Well, would you rather take all of his money and then let him die, or do you just want to let him go die?
I'd just rather let him die.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Just let the old guy go be an old guy and do what old guys do.
Yeah.
And not like take away all of his healthcare savings.
Yeah, I wouldn't do anything to the guy. Just call the insurance company. That's what they're there for. And those guys. Yeah. Those guys are a racket anyways. They've been given a government privilege so that they're able to charge way more than the market would bear otherwise.
Yeah, pretty much on that. But, like I said, I'd rather just deal with his insurance company on that one. I mean, I don't think the damage is that bad in a sense because it just like popped out a part of my rear bumper, essentially.
Oh, broke your clips?
The rear bumper cover. And there's usually a bit of styrofoam insulation between that and the actual hard metal bumper beneath it. You know, like I think that's all that's got to be done is just replace that, which is probably going to be at least damage to the car alone. That costs probably about $2,000 at most. Right there.
Well, take it in for an estimate. You might be surprised. I've heard people going in for a little, bumper ding like that, and the shop's like, well, we got to replace the whole bumper and it's going to cost $15,000 or something, sometimes.
Well, some of these cars are designed where like the bumper's tied into like the panel, like the side panel too. Mm-hmm. So like if you replace the bumper, you got to take like half the car apart.
Right.
And then replace it.
Right.
And on in my car's case, it's got those little parking sensors too, actually all around right there, because apparently this thing can park itself.
Yep.
It's a feature I'm never going to use, but it's kind of handy to have anyway, I guess. But
too bad the 95-year-old didn't have some helpful driving.
Yeah, for those reasons, that bumper might be a lot more expensive than you think.
Yeah. So, that sounds like a lot of tech.
I would definitely take it in for an estimate before you call the insurance company so you know.
Oh, yeah. Well, his insurance company is already aware, and so is mine on there. But it's like I'll probably take it to a body shop. Like I'm going to get an estimate anyway on there.
Yeah.
So just to see what I'm in for. They're like, yeah, we got to have them do an estimate because they've already accepted the liability on there. So it's just a matter of them seeing how much it's going to cost to fix my car and how much they're going to pay me out for my pain and suffering. And lost some wages on New Year's Eve because New Year's Eve is Super Bowl for Uber drivers.
Yeah, that makes sense because you're driving everybody home from the bars and all their New Year's Eve parties trashed out of their minds. Probably a big money day for you. I mean, you could look into it. I don't see why you couldn't. Yeah, like Stu said, these insurance companies are like scum. They're the scum of the earth too. So like, get as much as you can out of them.
They kind of have a fiduciary responsibility to be scum of the earth, though, in that sense, to try to pay out as little as possible. You just got to be savvy enough to know how to fight them on that stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of kids a lot of parents whose kids have cancer don't know how to fight those battles. They're kind of worried about their kid having cancer. So, I mean, you do pay for a service, and at some point you're expected to receive that service. You know what I mean? Like at some point you still have a duty to like the people you're taking the money from to provide the service. That's the whole idea of the insurance, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not looking to get like a whole year's worth of pay out of this, but at the same time, I'm not I don't want to get, screwed over financially and be denied on the thing. But yeah, I can see part of that is why, insurance premiums are so expensive these days. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yep.
So that's all I got for you guys at the moment.
All right. Thanks for the call.
Thanks for the call, Uber George. Nice to hear your voice.
Have a good night.
Yeah, insurance companies, man, they're creepy. And yeah, they have a fiduciary responsibility, but if my job my job requires me to have a fiduciary responsibility to
execute kids with cancer, essentially.
Or, yeah, just to make people's lives bad on a daily basis, I'm leaving that job. There's no way I'm sticking around for a paycheck.
These things all sound great if people weren't involved, but people suck. So it feels like we'll always mess up the system, regardless of what the system is designed to do. We'll
Maybe
find a way to
AI to run the insurance companies.
We're going to build the AI and it's going to explode, right? Whatever, everything we involve ourselves in ends up going sideways somehow. I feel like that's just the destiny of man, right? We're kind of selfish and angry and do stuff out of emotion and reactionary. That's like a big part of, I guess, being alive. So as long as there's stuff, we're gonna mess up stuff.
Got another story here from the Activist Post. We won't get all the way through it, but this is how reporting facts can now land you in jail for 14 years as a terrorist.
Nice.
Interesting.
They're talking about Britain. Obviously. Starmer's government has set the most dangerous of precedents. It can outlaw any political group it chooses as a terrorist organization and thereby make it impossible to defend it. The moment the British government began prescribing political movements as terrorist organizations rather than just militant groups, it was inevitable that saying factual things, making truthful statements, would become a crime. And behold, here we are. The Terrorism Act 2000 has a series of provisions that make it difficult to voice or show any kind of support for an organization proscribed under the legislation, whether it is writing an article or wearing a t-shirt. Recent attention is focused on Section 13, which is being used to hound thousands of mostly elderly people who have held signs saying, "I oppose genocide, I support Palestine action." They now face a terrorism conviction and up to 6 months in jail.
Nice. So we're gonna arrest grandma for saying "quit killing brown kids."
Yep, that's where it's going, and it sounds.
But
like
then we're also gonna arrest the guy who complains about the brown guy in his country.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see all of this come to this side of the pond, as they say, as well. Didn't Trump say Antifa is a terrorist organization?
He sure did.
So that's
it's like forced middle of the roadism is what they're doing.
Yeah.
And all fringe thought is going to be eradicated. Any wrong think, quote unquote wrong think, will be eradicated.
That's right. The only approved opinion is that of the government. So you ask us what your opinion is, and happiness is mandatory, comrades. Thanks for listening. This has been Free Talk Live. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Give us a call. Peace.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Tired of the ever-inflating US dollar? You can live your life on Dash instead with some handy websites. BitRefill.com has been accepting Dash for years and has a ton of big-name retailers and brands including grocers, gas stations, phone refills, Amazon, and even prepaid MasterCards. Plus, many of their gift cards are available at a discount. But what about paying your bills? Spritz.finance can do that, and they can send dollars to your bank account in case you still need those for some reason. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at Dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit Dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
Eleutheromania. The insatiable desire for freedom.
We have been enslaved for all our lives.
It's the new 3-song heavy metal EP from Captain Kickass.
The next ones they will.
Available now on your favorite music app or get it directly from CaptainKickass.com.
Authority to
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Coming up next after the news, Hour 1 of the latest episode of Free Talk Live here at listen.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Tony Waterman. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. He issued the warning in an early morning post to social media, saying the U.S. will come to the rescue of peaceful protesters. Mass demonstrations erupted a week ago in major cities like Tehran, but have since spread to smaller towns as citizens vent their frustration over the worsening economy. At least 6 people have been killed and 17 wounded. It's the biggest threat to Iran's government since 2022, when protests erupted over the death of a young woman who was arrested for allegedly not wearing her hijab correctly. In response to Trump's latest threat, Iran says it will not allow foreign interference in the country. Tensions between Tehran and Washington have intensified in recent weeks. Just on Monday, Trump said he'd order more strikes on Iran if it tries to rebuild its nuclear capabilities after the U.S. destroyed some sites in June. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles held too closely to the ceiling are to blame for the blaze. At least 40 people were killed and more than 100 others were injured, the majority of whom are in intensive care. France is among several European nations treating some of the victims. FSN's Ross Cullen reports.
People who suffered burns in the fatal fire are being looked after in hospitals in Paris and in Lyon, where France's top plastic surgeons are on standby to assist with specialist reconstructive care for burns victims. French citizens were among those injured, and there are still French nationals missing, with several Italians also unaccounted for. Police are working to identify all the victims and investigate how the fire started. It broke out in the Constellation Bar in the Swiss ski resort of Crans-Montana in the early hours of New Year's Day.
Senior Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed building a new high-security prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. FSN's Blake Sifton reports from Tel Aviv.
A delegation led by the Deputy Commissioner of Israel's Prison Service visited a crocodile farm on Thursday to learn about crocodile care and handling. Last week, far-right National Security Minister Ben-Gvir proposed building a new detention facility surrounded by crocodiles to hold Palestinian prisoners jailed for security offenses. He suggested the plan would prevent escapes and act as a deterrent, and said it was inspired by the Alligator Alcatraz detention facility in the Florida Everglades.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today in more detail at the very welcome development that wild salmon have been seen for the first time since 2015 in 3 English rivers, the Mersey, the Bollin and the Goyt, returning to those waters in Britain's gritty northwest, meaning they have made it all the way from the Arctic Circle to spawn in the river's gravel beds. The actor James Murray is the deputy chair of River Action and has campaigned for British rivers and wild salmon specifically.
What it says to me is there is hope. If you clean up these rivers, if you let them return to levels of health that they should be, then the salmon will return. They're a very resilient canary in the coal mine keynote species that will show you that your rivers are in good health by living there. And we need it not just to be a local good news story, it needs to be a national good news story. This species is endangered. It was on the red list from 2023. We need to take it off the red list and make it abundant again in its returning numbers, as it was pre-industrial revolution and as it could be again, as these rivers in the north Northwest have shown us.
Sir David Attenborough has long argued that waterways and oceans can return to life in a short space of time, given focus and environmental commitment. And in the northwest of England at least, the salmon are bearing that out.
And a recap of today's headlines. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles are to blame for the blaze. Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed a new prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. That's Feature Story News. Tony Waterman reporting.
It's the Onion Radio News. Teen sex is linked to alcohol and drugs by the Center for Figuring Out Really Obvious Things. This is Doyle Redland reporting.